West, y'all.
Right, all good?
Yeah, you'll edit stuff out and make me sound smarter than I really am, right?
Oh, no worries about that. It's good because when I used to edit, like when we first started, like I used to edit the hell out of the episode. They cut all the ahs, and if I stutter, I'll cut that out, and it'll just take ages. And then I'll just, after like, 20 episodes, I'll stop that, I'll just leave it. So it saves a lot of time. It's just like automatic, you know? Yeah. So, now, Dion, man, welcome to the Back of 135, man. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. It's awesome to be here.
Now, when I reached out to you, you said you're a fan of the podcast and that. Like, when was the first time you heard about us and stuff?
I had always seen different clips here and there. I don't think when you guys first started, but then, and then I just keep watching them ever since.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because back in the day when we first started, like there wasn't many like Pacifica stuff out there, like in podcasts and stuff. There was like a handful, but now these days, man, there's a lot around there, which is really good because for me, because this is my passion, right? But I love the long form type of stuff. Like this is the kind of stuff you don't get to see on TV or radio because there's time limits and no one gets to talk about 3 hours about anything they want. You know, so I love this kind of medium, eh?
Yeah, you guys are holding an important space, particularly for our people.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I probably didn't realize until later it was important. Like I know now it's important, especially when, especially with all the guests we've had on, you know, and the different stories I heard, you know, which is kind of like my kind of drug, you know. It's my drug, eh? Because every time, because I always get the odd person saying, "Man, you're still going, you know." So this is episode like 213, I think. 214.
To be 213, 214.
yeah, man. So, how was your day today, anyway?
Sicky, all good. Yeah, how about you?
Pretty busy. Yeah, I think it's getting close to Christmas and stuff, so things are ramping up at work and stuff. And you too, because you work at the university, huh? Or at AUT?
Yep, AUT, in the School of Sport and Recreation. Yeah, so we're all just finalizing end of semester assessments and getting the marks and
yeah. So tell me about that, about what you do at your job. Like, what's the course and
So I'm a research active lecturer at the School of Sport and Recreation at Auckland University of Technology. So I teach and research out of the North Campus and the South Campus in Manukau. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So just back and forth. Yeah. And so how long is the course? And
yeah. So I teach different courses. I teach post-grad courses. I teach first-year courses and second-year courses. And then I also do research as well. So 40% of my time is teaching the different courses in first year, second year, and post-grad, and then the other 40% is out there doing different research projects. And
And the students, what sort of career path is that at the end of it? Because every time I think about like sport and recreation stuff, is like, okay, PE teacher, or sports coordinator or something like that.
Yeah, so that's still a big one. We have a lot of them that go on to graduate to be sport teachers in high schools. We have a lot of, the work varies. So some of them work in sport policy, some of them work in sport management, sport marketing. Some of them go on to be scientists. So depending on what strand they take, the heavy science, like the exercise scientists and that. We had a Samoan Awala, Dr. Stephen Kolose, graduate with his PhD, and he's now like the head of ergonomics, New Zealand ergonomics. Yeah.
Oh.
All
So what's
that
that?
hard science stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's that hard. So that's out of my field. I'm in the, sport leadership and management. But so you have the hard sciences, so the exercise sports scientists and that on that end, and then you have. So my one's more affiliated with the business side of sport, like sport leadership and management. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because I don't know if you're a fan of movies and stuff, but there's that movie called Moneyball. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it.
It's about how in American baseball they use statistics to sort out the make it up of a team, a champion team, instead of getting names in, they'll use stats and it's real calculated. Like they use accountants, but there's a whole field of it in America. Like there's like an office where they have all these accountants and MS people that sort out all the numbers and all that. It's real like it goes deep, eh?
Yeah.
And that's like a data.
Yeah.
Extraction kind of thing, and it's a professional job, eh? It's a big deal, eh? And when I think of that's another level of what a career you can get into sports as well.
Yeah, and some of our graduates have gone on to be, sport data analysts and doing all that type of stuff and working in different teams and different projects, looking at the stats and how you could use that to win a game or to better a sport program. Yeah.
Because when I think about that, also plus coming from that movie, like I see USA that's in the forefront of that kind of stuff. Eh? Like it's billions of dollars over there. How far is here in New Zealand or in Australia? I think Australia is more ahead of New Zealand too when it comes to in and around. There's all that stuff and all the.
Yeah.
From your experience, like from in the New Zealand point of view, how far behind are we, or are we starting to get into this management of data and analytics? Because when you hear, like when you watch the news, watch the sports shows, you get the journalists there or the athletes there, and you talk about stats, talk about the story of the game, stats come up, but the stats helps with team improvement as well, eh?
Yeah.
So is New Zealand, like the sports teams in New Zealand, like netball or rugby, basketball? Like, have they set up like offices where you can have a career and go into that field for the sports team?
Yeah, so that's all starting to somewhat pick up now. So now a lot of the different sport organizations are starting to have more of an increase in research. So that's all really somewhat starting to take off now. Yeah, so a lot of the different sport organizations here relied more so on, the big volunteer base, and, that a lot of them were very stretched in capacity, as we're now, there's now more resourcing going into different sporting organizations that we hadn't seen before in this country, which is allowing them to have more research people in there and more quantitative data analysts and qualitative data analysts and all of that,
Is NZR one of the big, obviously one of the big ones?
I'm not naming any names of the ones that are doing heaps and the ones that aren't doing much.
Yeah. Wow. So how does the course that you do, like, how does that? What's the process with what you have to teach to the students? Like, what goes out in the real world that feeds into you guys? That said, okay, this is the way we have to go, in terms of like how do we teach the kids?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We have a lot of industry people that that feed into our courses when we make them and construct them to ensure that the courses are what we teach in the class is applicable in real life and is a reflection of what's happening in the industry, rather than teaching useless theories and useless topics that they might not particularly use in the sporting industry. How many of us used Pythagoras' theorem after high school? So that answers it.
Yeah. So it's more about like I guess it's more about how they could improve their team, I guess.
Yeah,
or individual.
And I think so we teach them twofold. So we teach them in the courses that teach is, the different established theories that are out there in the sporting space, and then we put them on placement so a lot of them get real life firsthand experiences in the field. And then we also, push the narrative in terms of them being the change into the future of sports. So a lot of them have identified different areas in the sporting space that they don't like. So if they don't like, not enough funding for women in sport, not enough funding for Pacifica in sport, not enough funding for disability in sport, we somewhat try to equip them with the tools so then once they graduate, they can then go and take that fight, in industry there, So we try to equip them with the industry skills needed, and then we also try and equip them, to be activists to make the sporting space a better place here in New Zealand. Yeah.
Like socially.
Yeah, social. Yeah,
stuff.
like sport. Yeah, like the whole sport for social change. Using sport to better communities, using sport to better engagement with one another. All that awesome, cool stuff.
It's interesting you said about you teach them ways if they could sort out like funding, if sport needs more funding for a certain thing. Because in my mind, because I'm not an expert in what happens, like I know there's government funding. That's one source. But being a fan of American sports, and I can see the sports culture over there is much bigger than here. I can see that most of the money, I guess, comes from the fans. Is that?
Yeah, fans
that be?
is another. Yeah, it's quite complex. Yeah, so
Yeah.
those are all just tapping into all of that. Again, New Zealand's like at a space now where they're exploring all those different options. Going to Sport New Zealand for funding, going to the Ministry of all these other different ministries, and then going externally as well, like trying to seek funding overseas. So it's all going down now.
Yeah, because I'm a big fan of sports, right? But I'm a big fan of the culture of sports.
Okay.
Like I love the atmosphere of sports, right? Going to a game, going to a bar, watch the game, like the atmosphere, like and I love the tribalism about it.
Yes.
I love supporting my team, the Auckland Blues.
Yeah.
I love, supporting the team, Manu Samoa, and I try and think like, man, I wish we were like America. We were crazy about every single team on different levels,
Yeah.
And because of that, like, I guess it's good for the economy too. When fans get involved, fans get invested in their team, they spend their money.
Yeah.
Because I reckon that's where it starts. And I think, I don't know, you can say I'm wrong, but what I feel is like, we rely too much on government funding for most of the stuff, and they don't see what the power of sports culture can do to a community.
Yeah.
And because I don't see it. I don't see it in the community. I mean, I think when it comes to club rugby, you can see it.
Yeah.
When it comes to that level, club rugby, because you get the community involved. But for instance, the club around here, like Waitemata, right? The only people that go into Waitemata are ex-players, the families of the players, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's not the actual community. Like, they got their sponsors in there, but there's no like incentive for a fan, a rugby fan, to go support their local club rugby, unless there's a reason why to go. But once you have that reason, and because you're in the area, that's your team. You support the colors. You get the jersey. That's you. You identify as that team. Like, it's complicated, But I think I feel like that's where we need to start a community and then expand from that. And we don't have that, I think.
So there's that club rugby, part aspect that you're speaking about. That's really real. But I'm on a project now, and I've done some work in it already, and continuing the work. When it comes to tribalism and fandom that you're talking about, the perfect example is our support for Toa Samoa.
Exactly.
That is the pinnacle of fandom. I say it at all these different sport conferences that I go to, all these different spaces that I hold in the sport arena. That the Toa Samoa really is a blueprint of fandom craziness and what happens. where to start and just break down how awesome it is. So one of my main research projects that I'm doing now is advocating for the whole sport being the new space for us to learn and keep alive our language and our culture. So the research shows that before, when Samoans first started coming to New Zealand, we kept the two main pillars that we kept the Samoan language and the Samoan culture alive was in the church and amongst the extended family. Yeah, so those were our two pillars when we first migrated to New Zealand. As time's gone on and as we have the growth of the third and the fourth generation, the attendance in the Samoan language speaking churches has decreased. And people don't hang out with their extended family members as much as they did before.
In the Western world?
But
like in Australia?
I mean our Samoan people, yeah. So before, they were hanging out a lot more together and, learning off each other in the 80s and the 90s than they are now in 2023. And so this is part of a study I'm doing now, but this was also something I captured in my PhD. So I really made the point that sport is the new space given those factors. Yeah, so given that the Samoan language church is attendance is decreasing, and then we're not seeing our extended family members as much and as often as we did before. So then those, in terms of Samoans in New Zealand, those were contributing factors for the language decreasing. Yeah. And so, so then when we have stuff like Toa Samoa, it really was a cultural revolution. This is a new space that, a whole bunch of New Zealand born and Australian born and American born Samoans can create and recreate what being Samoan is, and it was a new space for them to create and recreate how the language and the culture will live on now and for future generations. So yeah, I'm now going through to different sporting events and sporting games and seeing how our language and our culture is transmitted in those spaces. Our Samoan parents that get together and support their children, or these tour fan parades. So then I find it completely fascinating because let's keep it 100. The amount of Samoans that I've seen at those parades that didn't care to learn their language and their culture before, but then these parades have been somewhat of a entry point, some to reclaim what it is, and to be, so then all the different songs that they're singing, and then it's instigating questions amongst our youth, like, they sing that, this is the third event that they've sang that song, what does that song mean? So it works, so
what does 685 mean? What's that?
What does 685 mean? What does uafa awhetai mean? And why do they sing it all the time? And so what I love about it as someone who did my PhD in the Samoan culture is it instigates that thirst for knowing, and it sparks the conversation, and it continues the conversation. My PhD showed that a lot of barriers to learning our language and our culture was, and my PhD shows it, but we all knew it, it's nothing new, is the shame associated with getting it wrong when you try and learn the language and the culture, and then the bad experiences a lot of my research participants had in the church or within the family, which made them be like, nah, I don't want to learn anymore because I got laughed at, at White Sunday, or I got laughed at the family kongai. But then this Toa Samoa hype, and then a lot of, these Auckland Samoa rugby, Auckland Samoa netball, Auckland Samoa, New Zealand Samoa, all these new sporting organizations that have emerged have become somewhat of a safe space for us to learn our language and our culture. And so I think a lot needs to be invested in that, because to me, it's the best of both worlds in terms of your cultural being and you as an athlete, looking through, a lot of Pālangis shocked with the whole Samoa and Tongan players choosing to play for their islands rather than New Zealand and Australia. And they're like, but you were born and raised in New Zealand, you were born and raised in Australia. Some of them had never been to Samoa before. Why are you playing for this country that you don't get paid much to play for? And, this is the pinnacle, we're showing you here, playing for the Kiwis and the Aussies is the pinnacle, but the Palangi society, Western society underestimates, and they don't know how deep our cultural pride goes. I've published, and I always say the first incorrect analysis that a lot of these Palangi sports people have on us is, and it's drummed up by the media too, is a lot of them would refer to like, we'll take Sione Famuina, for example. They'll refer to him as a Kiwis player with Samoan ancestry. Yeah, that labeling's wrong. So we get that labeling all the time, and then no. He's a Samoan who happens to be a rugby player. Yes, so he was a Samoan before, in his mum's womb, right down to when he goes down 6 feet under. He will die as a Samoan. Born as a Samoan, die as a Samoan. That cultural being is it's the be-all and end-all of who you are. You being a rugby player just happens to be your occupation. That just happens to be what you do. That doesn't define who they are. So the more a lot of these sport organizations understand this about our athletes, the more they'll be better able to come into our world somewhat, as much as we let them, because, and I've published a paper on this too, as I can't speak for the other islands, but I can speak in terms of a Samoan. A lot of these when you look at all the different concepts of being a Samoan and whatnot, tautua service is the main one. Yeah. So then when you analyze, when you look at a lot of these Samoan athletes through the lens of tautua, then you get to understand them properly. A lot of these athletes do this to serve their families, to serve the last name that they carry on their back, to bring mana to the last name, to bring mana, and to financially support and serve their family and serve their villages that they come from. And the sport that they play is the means in which they do it. Yeah. That is it. Yeah. And so just, and now in New Zealand, they're slowly starting to wake up to that. Yeah. So then I think seeing this whole, the Mate Maatonga movement to go, for a whole bunch of them to go play for Tonga, and then the Toa Samoa movement for them to go play for Samoa, has a lot of Palangi sports people scratching their heads saying this doesn't make sense. And then, but to us it makes total sense, because you can't put a price tag on the blood that runs through your veins. Yeah. And I love it. I love the movement of Mate Maatonga, all of them going back and playing for their nations. I love the movement of a lot of them going to play for Toa Samoa, and I love the fandom. Just let's talk about, when we're looking at the fandom from Toa Samoa, the most watched rugby league game was, that they had captured was the final. Yeah. And it was the most watched because another Samoan, The Rock, endorsed it and opened it to the US market. So in essence, Samoans weren't just being good at the game. We took the whole game of rugby league to the next level in terms of The Rock's endorsement and opening us up to the US, opening up rugby league to the US market. So yeah, I get really proud of moments like that, just knowing that, and it takes steps. It's like, we're good at these sports, which we're starting to take up, and now we've just taken the sport to the next level, and how to leverage off all of that.
Like when the question comes up, like when these Palangis question, like what you were saying, like, why are you're born here but you're playing for Samoa, like, and they question it, like, it's like, and then because you articulated it very well, like you're saying what we all know,
Yeah.
but we can't pinpoint it. But we know it's there. But you've just described it, and I'm like, saying, yeah, that is how you say it. That is how you describe what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
With Sione and you know,
Yeah.
everyone else that's
Yeah.
born here or born in Australia and playing for their home nation.
Yeah.
You know, when I think about when you're talking, then I was thinking about how, because the big thing is identity, right? And how the Balinese are questioning it, like,
Yeah.
like how come? Because you know the Balinese, they're just New Zealanders. They don't go back to Ireland or go back to
That's right.
Scotland or go back to England. Like they don't. They've cut it off in their generation, right? Like they don't identify back to their homeland, which might be anywhere in Europe. So, but we still have our connection because that's who we are.
Yeah.
Like that's how different our cultures are.
Yeah. And a lot of it too, in terms of Pacific going back to play for their homelands, even if they've never lived there and they were born in Australia and New Zealand, when you go through and look through a lot of those athletes and they explain their why, a common theme you can see throughout a lot of them is paying homage to their parents, paying homage to their grandparents. Yeah. And that paying homage meaning you're going to take a big pay cut and you're going to put on, you know, you're going to play for Toa Samoa or you're going to play for Tonga to elevate that. It still mind boggles a lot of non-Pacific people, but we get it. The other interesting part, so this is an awesome movement that's happening, but we also have to acknowledge and be aware of, certain people and organizations that are trying to fight against that. Yeah. So then you have a lot of, you see a lot of the keyboard warriors saying, if you were born in New Zealand and you play for the Kiwis, or get out, right? So, and I know a lot of that comes from a lot of the mainstream society and a lot of the Palangis are used to enforcing their ideals of our identity on us. So they're telling us like, yeah, you will be a Samoan when you do crime, and you will be a New Zealander when you win us World Cup.
Exactly.
We define who you are. So it's mind-boggled a lot of people now that a lot of these athletes, they've demonstrated in terms of we have our own authority and autonomy to dictate what our identity is, rather than, those old traditions of, outside forces telling us who we are and when we are. And I think it's liberating. And I have the utmost respect for those pioneers that have started that movement, the utmost respect, because to me, this is far bigger than just sport, and this is far bigger than rugby league. This is giving every other Pacific person around the world, island-born, first generation, second generation, third and fourth generation, permission to not only be proud of who they are, but to be unapologetically proud of who they are as a Samoan, as a Tongan, as a Cook Islander, as a Niuean. So this is all, this comes to, this all ties in directly with the well-being of our people and the future well-being of our people. Those pioneers that went and did that, not only did they start an awesome movement, they've also been the beacon of light, or the leaders for the next generation to see, hey, I can do that when I get older. I want to represent, it's the pathway's been blazed forward for others who may not have felt as comfortable to do that type of stuff. But because we've had those now who've set that scene, it allows us, and it goes more into sport, because even if you're Pacific and you're not in sport, that's an example of reclaiming your identity. That's an example of having autonomy and sovereignty over who you are. Yeah. So you can be inspired by the Toa Samoa movement, and it can give you the oomph and the energy to go and be an awesome lawyer, to go and be an awesome accountant. Yeah. So this sport is just the space that this cultural pride, rose, and this identity reclaiming rose, but any Pacific person can take the learnings from this and apply it in their own lives. Yeah, mahalo.
No, that is deep, man. That is deep.
Yeah.
And can you imagine? Because you know how The Rock was our spokesperson?
Yes.
Because he's Samoan, right?
Yeah.
And it shows how small the world is, and how there's Samoans all over the world, but it shows how we all connect.
Yes.
With the pride of being Samoan, having Samoan blood, right?
Yeah.
So if so it happens that one of our blood is The Rock, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Tom Cruise did it for the Balangis, said something like, no, that would never happen. That's why these Balangis are like, what the hell? You got The Rock to say endorse?
Yeah. It's because we're connected as family first and foremost. Yeah, so The Rock understands that, and a lot of Samoans, we had it enshrined in us, that you are me and I am you, and we're not individuals, and we're all one big collective family. So, he holds that space, and again, it's all that role modeling. Yeah, that's the word. Role modeling is all important, because I look at my own journey as an academic and getting a PhD and having the doctor in front of my name. It was because of the academics before me. I saw people that looked like me that went through this journey that then gave me the permission to be like, oh yeah, I can do it. So, when you look at, Professor Albert Wentz, and when you look at Dr. Malani Anai, all those, Professor, Otoi Ole Sulusulu, Professor Vice Chancellor now, Damon Sa'alesa, they're all old enough to be my parents, and some of them may be old enough to be my older sibling. But just having one of your own lead that first, and then it's very powerful. Yeah, because I can't say that I would be here if it wasn't for them. I don't know. There was seeing them and seeing the work that they do and the damage that they do from a young age really did empower me, and that's how I'm here today. That whole holding space for the next generation, holding space for one another. So then I'm very aware of their role modeling for me to get to where I am. And then I'm also aware of my responsibility and my duty for the next up and coming Pacifica, great minds, and for me to help and assist in any way that I can in the position that I hold.
Yeah, because we need these academics, especially because they cover.
Do we? Not jokes.
No, we do, because they cover certain parts of society.
Yeah.
That we need to understand and get a hold of, and how we can, be in that space, right? You're covering the sports side of things, which is pretty cool too, So, yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and that's why, any Pacifica watching that wants, to work in sport leadership or sport management, I'm here. Use me.
Yeah.
In whatever capacity it is, in terms of research and or doing a degree or whatever. And for me, that's why I love what I do. Yeah, and that's why I love occupying this space. If I just wanted to do my own thing, we wouldn't be here. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to hold the space for more, for our people in our communities to use me however beneficial it will be to push, it's all that service, yeah, to push whatever they're trying to do for the greater good.
Yeah. With the I was just thinking about the Tō Samoa team, because a lot of them not born in Samoa. Not a lot of them not from Samoa.
Yeah.
So that's another important thing to point out, because you can imagine the Samoans in Samoa, like they're just like all of a sudden this Tō Samoa team's like making noise and all the flag parades everywhere in the world. It comes from outside in.
Yeah.
And that's different. That's different from Manu Samoa, from the inside out.
That's right. Yeah. And the other bit that I want to put into, and I cracked up laughing because I have a lot of family in America, born and raised, and that's when the support is deep, because when Toa just hit, and that it was an international Samoan movement. Yes, so I've never, in this day and age, we've never seen an international Samoan movement like this before, of Samoan people around the world taking up space and mobilizing like this. It's never been done. Yeah. And then what I found so interesting, so a lot of the Samoans that went and celebrated it, they don't know anything to do with the actual sport, so rugby league and them. So I had cousins, shout out to my cousin Crystal, from California, who flew from LA to the game in England.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And there were a lot of, I had quite a lot of relatives that flew over. There were a lot of Samoans from America that flew over there. And most of them don't understand how rugby league goes. So they didn't know who was winning, what anything meant, what any of the plays meant. And I remember my cousin saying, she's like, shucks, I wish like we sat next to someone that knew the game. That we knew when we were winning and when we weren't. But that's just how diehard the support was, you know. So when you're looking at that, they went and attended a game that they know nothing about. Yeah. And they flew to the other side of the world just because it was their fellow brother, their fellow sister, you know, to support as a Samoan. That's how deep it, you know, that's how deep it was. The 685 movement went from Utah and California, where they, you know, a lot of them don't understand rugby, all the way there just to support their brother and sister. So, yeah. And as a researcher, I'm still, you know, looking at this whole phenomena, you know, and just trying to unpack what this means and how we could use this as a catalyst for future programs or future whatever. So, yeah, if anyone's looking at a case study on that, the tour phenomena is awesome. And it'd be cool if someone made a documentary or a movie out of it one day. Child support. Yeah, and we're still living through the joy of it today. Yeah. Awesome, huh?
No, that is awesome. Considering, you know, they don't know how to, they're just there for the moment. They just want to be there to be a part of history, you know?
And to support their brothers.
Because when you watch these games, whether it be Manu Samoa in the World Cup, or Tour Samoa, or any other sport that involves Samoa, the rugby sevens, and you know, when the camera goes to the crowd and you see the fans, like there's a group of Samoan fans with flags. Always the flags. You know, big flags. You know, you're watching TV, man. I wish I was there. You know, all the time, man. You know, all the time, and it's cool to see them holding the flags.
It's cool to see them holding the flags. It's cool to see them wearing the clothes, and it's cool to see them showcase the tatau and the malu internationally in that space where it generally isn't seen. So that's those are all important aspects of holding space as Samoans going through to the international discourse. Because, so, you know, they had the Toa Samoa Day at Victoria Park yesterday, the fan day, and then, you know, just seeing all the...
Were you there? Did you go?
Yeah, I was there, They're seeing all the palangi, palangi saying, oh, what's that? What's happening? And then I remember even when all the toa hype happened, even in Australia, you know, there were a lot of palangi Australians that were like, you know, I don't know what this is, but, you know, I'm just enjoying the good vibes because our town hasn't been this excited in a long time. You know, shout out to Ipswich back in Brisbane, you know. And so it can be a catalyst of many awesome things like race relations, community building, you know. And
You're laughing, why? Why are you laughing?
Because it can, and you know, I just noticed some of these people, some of these non-Samoans that are enjoying the hype. Some of them have supported us, but I'm also very aware some of them are the same ones who were against, you know, Pacific things, and you know, and we're seeing it in the media now in terms of the cultural pride, and you're gonna keep seeing it here, and you're gonna keep seeing how much the cultural pride means to them. You know, already looking at some of the, you know, I know there was a newspaper article of some of the tour players were caught crying during the anthem. And, you know, that's like, you know, to mainstream society and the Palangis, they're like, wow, we've never had our players cry this hard out for.
I think the Australian media threw a story out. I saw that some of the Kangaroos guys, they weren't singing the anthem.
That's right.
And they got in trouble. Like, someone said, if you don't sing the anthem, you're shouldn't be in the team. You know? Well, and there was a circle around Samoan Copa, and it was like, hey.
And you know, our people are very aware of it now. You know, so you have it's kind of like, when they're praising some of our athletes, I'm like, are you praising them as a person or as an athlete? Yeah, because then you look at the Jerome Luai and you look at to all of these players, and then you see their fan base, their non-Pacific fan base, some of them, not all of them, some of them, and then it's kind of like, would you say that if they didn't make it? Yeah, like, if I use the same person that would have looked at this young Samoan man and the first thing you would have thought was criminal. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, it's interesting seeing the different perceptions based on what identity you have of them in your head. Yeah. Because, and when you look at a lot of our Pacific people, a lot of us will be there for our Pacifica athletes when they rise and when they fall. You know what I mean? It's all part and parcel of being family. Yeah, we got to ride the storm with them, and we got to support them when they're being unfairly targeted and that as well. And we've got to ride the wave with them and support them when they retire. All of that. Yeah.
Just like the Warriors fans.
So,
But I remember when they lost their first game against England, right? They got wasted.
Yeah.
And then there was no flags or anything.
Yeah, right. The switch up was hella. Oh my gosh. Yeah. The switch up was I remember, praise the Lord of the creator of screenshots, because some of those people, even some of our own. So it's just about having that support for our athletes through all parts of the pathway, from when they're developing, once they've first started, once they're a veteran, then once they finish playing.
In your research, when you're studying, where does the tribalism come from? Where does the passion come from? Like, obviously it's country, blood in country. Do you have a neutral, like countries like Argentina? Because they're pretty hard out fans too when it comes to, especially World Cup and stuff.
I'm sure there's different. So then there's different similarities with different countries, but the research on the Argentinian fans, I'll leave that to an Argentinian researcher. There's too much to unpack in the Samoan and the Pacific context. But again, so I have another colleague of mine who's a world-renowned specialist in sport fandom, and so we have those conversations as well in terms of the tribalism. So he talks about the soccer tribalism in England, and the similarities and the differences. So there are a lot of different similarities, and there are also a lot of differences as well, just the nuances in the way things are carried out. Because I also find it very interesting how the Whaasa more lives on in the sporting space with the tour parades. So we have the awesome songs in that too, but then even the cultural behaviors, such as like when they would go watch a game, and then our youth would still walk past elders that they don't know and say tulo, or give up their seat, or just be very whaaloalo in their interactions. And that's somewhere I was like, oh wow, this it really is like our culture in practice right here, right now. In the sporting space, that you wouldn't really expect it. I'm not rambling too much.
Nah, you're good, man. Because I hope you find what you look for in your research in terms of how can we use whatever you find to help other teams, like sports teams. Because like I was saying before, like, man, I'm real interested in the notion of sports fandom. Because I'm really interested.
Come do your PhD with us on it.
Well, I've only got my experiences to go off, and I've told the story many times on the podcast. But I was in Hawaii, and I went to this bar. It was empty. I just went for something to eat and something to drink. It was empty. Next minute, it was just packed full of Denver Broncos fans because the game was about to start. Now, I never watched any NFL before that. I don't know anything about NFL. But that 2 hours I was there while all the fans were watching the game,
Yeah.
man, I was into it because everyone was rowdy. Everyone was getting to the game. Everyone it was packed. There was no one there a minute ago. Now it's packed full of Denver Broncos fans, and it was all rowdy. 2 hours of just watching the game, and I was like, oh man, what's going on? Like, and then when the game's finished, everyone goes, everyone's left, and I'm by myself going, what the hell just happened? And from then on, I just love NFL.
Yeah.
I've been watching NFL ever since because of the atmosphere that I was sucked into.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, man, I wish this was back in New Zealand. Like every single game, I wish every bar was packed.
I noticed,
that kind of thing.
I've had this talk with my friends and that before, and I think the big difference between US fandom and fandom in New Zealand is, in comparison, New Zealanders are very conservative. Yeah, so I've noticed that too. Yeah,
Yes.
like they're very conservative, and they're not as out there, just in general compared to Americans. Yeah, so then that's also reflected in when they go to sport games and stuff like that as well. They're very conservative compared to the fans in Australia and the US as well. They're like more like out there, look at me, banter, and so then that's a big one I've noticed since I've moved back to New Zealand. Yeah, a lot of it's the New Zealand culture of being conservative, being more conservative and not out there, as where America was on everything goes to tailgate parties. Yeah.
So I'm thinking that's where we should go. That's the direction we should go as Kiwis. Because my experience, having that experience and coming back and then just...
You can't describe it if you haven't been in it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's very hard to describe to people here in New Zealand who have not been in it, because it's just a whole different level.
And I was just in the bar. I wasn't even in the game. I wasn't actually in the game when you think... I experienced it in the bar on that level.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what the hell? But when I came back, I was always wanting that again. So I was looking around. And, I follow American sports, and, I follow what happens in the college. But then when I think about the tribalism, what they do over there, it's from a real young age. Like you go to a school, right?
Yeah.
And you have the mascots. Everyone supports the basketball team or the football team. And then when you leave that school, you just can't help but be connected to that school.
Yeah.
Because they have the alumni. So that's funny. Yeah. And then you go to college, and that's even worse. Because it's a big extravaganza.
Yeah.
All the sports is a big deal. And you just can't help but that's your identity. So it's sort of like, how we relate to Samoa because they were Samoans. Yeah. They probably have that same kind of energy, that same kind of cultivation in the colleges, every college in the USA. Yeah. Because you see it when people get old, they're still connected to the university.
Yep.
They still go Bears or go Tigers or whatever.
And here doesn't have as strong of an alumni culture. Here still it's very, very different here. But
and then you got their media, which amplifies it another 10% or 100, 200, 500%, 1,000% because of the way they do their media. Yeah. I mean, they put their players down. Stephen A. Smith and all those ESPN shows. They're real extreme compared to our shows, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
If you messed up in the game, you're gonna know about it, and you're probably too embarrassed to watch ESPN because they're gonna like say, oh, you're useless, blah blah blah. Like it's very extreme, And when it comes to mental health, it's like they don't even care about mental health. But to me, I'm thinking, okay, these athletes over there make millions of dollars. Yeah. They don't care about mental health. Because they make all that money.
If I was making like 50 million, I wouldn't care what 200
what anyone
people
says,
posted about me and memes about me and that.
And then, not only that, but the economy of sports in America. Because as a fan, you've invested so much. You're going to spend all your money on your team, right? The closest I see that here in New Zealand is when Star Origin comes around.
Here in New Zealand?
Yeah, in New Zealand. Star Origin.
Yeah. New Zealand is a passionate, it doesn't even go here.
We're not even born there. But we particularly unders here in New Zealand, New South Wales or Queensland. You choose a side and that's it for your whole life. And when Star Origin rolls around, we are passionate about Star Origin, right?
Yeah,
right?
Even though it's in a different country.
That's
right. Yeah.
Look at social media. We're always posting, go to Blues, go to Maroons, right? Yeah. Banter, back and forth.
Yeah.
You spend that money on the gears. You look outside. When you go outside during Star Origin time, you see the blue uniforms people wearing, the Maroons people wearing. people spending their money. The economy of the tribalism, of the aura of state of origin, trickles down to us, and we're spending all our money on it.
Yeah.
So when I think about what happens in America, it's like 100% times 100%, because when you go to a sports bar, man, people there, it's packed, people spending money. Sports bars are like making an event.
Yeah.
You see you got the tailgating at the games. Every game is an event. It's not just a sports game.
Yeah.
It's a fan zone.
And it's go hard or go home. They go above and beyond in everything that they do, especially the sports. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a big beast, That culture, that sports culture is a big beast. And ever since I experienced that in the bar, little tiny bar, I've yet to go to an NBA game, yet to go to an NFL game.
Experience it, yeah.
But me experiencing it in a little bar like that is like, even that told me, man, how can New Zealand get to there? How can New Zealand get there? Because I think it'll be good for sports here in New Zealand. It'll be good for businesses.
Yeah.
To pick out bars and
I think for that the general New Zealand culture would have to change in general, because New Zealanders are very they're in comparison to somewhat conservative and very internal and not out there. So a lot of this stuff works because they're all out there, they're all putting energy, they're all putting resources in the space. So the space is like full of all this cheerleaders, drumline, all of the and they all go above and beyond, is where I noticed a lot. And this just an observation as someone that's been gone for a very long time and come back. People here just bring themselves and no energy. They just bring themselves and their side eyes, and I think it goes far deep in terms of just the cultural makeup of New Zealand, because New Zealanders are quite calculated in what they do in public, in comparison to Australia and New Zealand. As where Australian New Zealand is very like boisterous, it's out there, it's in your face, it's raunchy, it's politically incorrect, but it's there. And so I think it would require a culture shift of New Zealand people in general first. But how would that happen? I don't know.
But maybe we can make it happen, like more podcasts or
more podcasts,
or having people coming on these sports shows on Sky TV be more controversial or more like personal, make it a little bit more personal.
And I think a lot of people, because New Zealand's got very it's very the tall poppy syndrome as well. So a lot of people are too scared to do stuff because they know for the one thing you're going to do, there's going to be 100 haters out there ready to pull you down and deconstruct how you did something half-assed. And then that can hold to a lot of things, and people are like, I want to save myself from Haterville.
The probably closest New Zealand ever gets to that kind of sports culture in America, the closest will be with All Blacks are playing.
Yes.
And that's it. You don't get it for Super Rugby unless you're down in Christchurch and you're a Crusaders fan. Yeah. But that's about it. But they're just because they're winning, I guess. You know.
Yeah. So the All Blacks phenomenon. Yeah. So we have New Zealand's loyalty to the All Blacks is here, and then Australia's loyalty to the Wallabies is good.
Yeah. But the NRL is a good, better game right now. And rugby league is pretty big in AFL. They got AFL in Victoria.
Yeah, and again, the NRL is a really exciting space with more. Not only now are we seeing more of our people playing and being the top players in the NRL, we're now starting to see a lot more of our people in non-playing roles in rugby league, and and our different well-being initiatives being implemented into the NRL. A lot of our cultural things being implemented into the NRL. So seeing a lot of the different sport teams have their Pacifica nights. Like the Titans, the Panthers, and then now it's. In Australia, it's been a thing now where like a lot of rugby clubs will have a Pacifica night. So that would have been impossible. We moved to Australia 23 years ago, and I remember the attitude towards culture then, our Pacifica cultures. If you told us this was going to happen, if you told us that what's happening now in terms of Pacifica cultures being infiltrated in mainstream sports organizations in Australia, if you told us that then, we wouldn't have believed you, because, you know, it was a real hard struggle or fight to get anything. As we're now, you know, we've got this big movement, because you just can't deny our presence, and the critical mass is massing. So a lot of our people now understand, and, you know, they're now critically looking at, you know, we're looking at the numbers. We're like, okay, so if there's that many Pacifica playing on the field, why is there none of us in the boardroom, you know? So then it all helps the movement. The fans, the players, those working, you know, our people working in the non-playing roles, everything that we do together helps push the movement forward and having more presence and more visibility. And then now, you know, seeing some of the initiatives of having our games commentated in our languages, that's massive. Yeah, you know, to hear, you know, to hear a rugby game on TV translated in Samoan is beautiful. And then the other thing is, it adds value to the game, because when you're doing the commentary or you're doing the work in our own languages, it adds another realm to your work that you couldn't do in English, you know. So when you know, all the different deep metaphors that some of the commentators can use sometimes, and different Samoan humor that at times cannot fully be captured in English. You know,
it's like when you get told off by your parents. It's better to tell you off in Samoan.
So that's right. Like, so if your parents say, "I want to come there and hit you," it's a very different. They're two very different tones, and, you know.
Exactly.
Energy that comes with it.
even try to be funny, like, you know. Like, do you watch that show RWC on Ireland?
I've started. I've seen
some. See, if I'm Tuilangi, if he talks Samoan, he'll be even more funny.
No, that's right. So then there's that barrier to the humor, because he has to do it through English. And but I love. So then, you know, sports is one aspect now, because you're starting to see some of our players, and I had written about this for Coconet. You know, we have some of our players, when they're doing their TV interviews, start to speak in Samoan. That's a massive, massive move that destabilizes the mainstream media and the mainstream audience, and, you know, forces them, you know, makes them listen to our language and the beauty in it. So all of those stints, and then, you know, I have to take my hat off too to some of these athletes that are doing it, because I know Samoan is not their first language, or they don't speak it fluently. So then, you know, it's a political stance, because a lot of these athletes could just easily, you know, just do it in English without thinking twice. But the fact that they put more effort using the international platform to voice their language, even though it may be really hard for them at times, and even though they may stuff up, and for them to occupy that space and do it is very liberating. It's a form of decolonizing. And then again, you know, with everything that happens with our role models has a trickle effect. So then that, you know, by Tana, you know, Fa'alongo Tana Umanga doing that, and all the other athletes, Mills Muliaina doing that, they then have, they have then in essence shown the next generation that you can speak your language wherever. Your language isn't just confined to in the Samoan language church or at home, which we were taught previously, you know, and our parents' generation, you know, they were taught like your language only belongs amongst yourself, and it's not welcomed in mainstream society and any other facet. As we're by them doing this, very powerful, and again goes beyond sport. This goes to, you know, our language survival and thrival. You know?
So talking about how they bring cultures into sport now, like especially the main sports, like the All Blacks when they have the interviews, if it's Adi Severe, he'll talk Samoan in the beginning, then or anyone, like when you said about 23 years ago in Australia, you'll never think that 23 years later would be a lot of things would be accepted right now. Like when I think about Australia and their history, like as early as I can remember, maybe the early 2000s, I heard that Australia is a really racist country, and I went there for the Rugby World Cup with my cousins, and when I was there in Sydney, and I experienced some of that racism.
Yeah.
And then you hear if you read history and stuff, what they did to Aborigines, it's really really crazy what they did with them and stuff like that. To see the Aboriginal stuff coming out, and now on the mainstream, like in the sport games, like every time the Wallabies play, they've got the Aboriginal ceremony in the beginning.
Yes.
NRL's adopted the Indigenous game and got the Indigenous players to do their what do they call it, war dance or haka. I don't know what they call it, but it's coming up now, and I'm thinking, wow, just overnight, you guys decided to do something about this? Because I never knew Australia to be inclined to,
Because it wasn't.
Because it wasn't. Like, were you guys forced to do this, or I was like, oh, okay, was the political correctness come down and say, you guys, if you don't do this, we're not going to sponsor you or something like that. There's a movement happening in Australia.
And, having lived in Australia from from the year 2000 onwards, and seeing, it's bigger than just our own countries that we live in. There's now an international Indigenous movement to reclaim and decolonize and re-indigenize your space. And so a lot of it is interconnected. So having been raised in Australia most of my life and been there to see a lot of this, I can say, a lot of the Samoan, Maoli, Tongan, Cook Island, Niuean communities in Australia helped this indigenous, the indigenous cultural reclamation, because a lot of them look to us, I'll never forget, we had an example. I'll give you an example. We had our Samoan group at my high school in Brisbane, and we performed. We shut it down. We shut it all the way down. But to Australian standards, they loved every second of it. And I'll never forget a group of Aboriginal students and their teacher. The Aboriginal teacher came up to us and they said, they say, that was deadly. Deadly. That's like it was the bomb. And then they're like, yeah, how, and so then the conversation started. They're like, how you are so, into your culture, like, how can you help us reclaim? And then when you go through the stories, it's really heartbreaking, like what they went through. And then that trying to reclaim and trying to bring to life their culture in the Australian space that had just been denying left, right, and center. And you would see that throughout Australia and throughout wherever there were Pacific people, there were a lot of them working hand in hand and, giving what knowledge we know and giving what has worked for us in New Zealand and what has worked for us in the islands and what was working for us in Australia. And trying to help the cause, because one thing I don't think many people here in New Zealand know is Samoan is the second most spoken language in 3 city councils of Brisbane, and the second after English,
Oh, wow.
and one of those city councils, Moreton Bay, is the biggest in the whole state, So we have that, yet a lot of Aboriginals on their own land, weren't speaking their languages, in these same city councils, typical Samoan, wherever they go to take over. so arrogant. So then when we started, in the Brisbane context, when we started opening up the Samoan kindergartens, the Samoan churches, the Samoan language centers, then a lot of the Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders were like, wow, this is amazing. Like, how can we do that for our people, so that's so that's just so whenever I see a lot of the indigenous stuff that happens in Australia now, you cannot deny that there was a big arm of Maoli, Samoan, Tongan, Cook Island, and Niue, and help us from the Pacific, standing hand in hand and giving what we can to our Aboriginal cousins.
Oh wow. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's
no one, because I hear a lot of people here that have never lived in Australia, they talk of, a lot of them say like, it should be led by an Aboriginal. But I was like, yeah, in theory, yeah, but we lived there. Yeah. And a lot of them would ask time and time again, can you lead it or can you help us? So it's, yeah. And you always support what the brothers, what our indigenous brothers do. And, our hearts are always with them. And I think especially a lot of us Pacifica that were in Australia, like, the 90s and the early 2000s, we have this bond with Indigenous Australia. I can't really describe it, but it's a very special bond. And so when you go to a lot of different Samoan events in Australia, you'll see, they would sit the Aboriginal elders at the front and all that type of stuff. So those bonds are still being nurtured and, and further strengthened today. And we're now starting to see a bunch of Aboriginals, like Samoan Aboriginals, Tongan Aboriginals, the intermarriage and that. Yeah, that's always the best one for race relations. Yeah.
Like the hammer. He chose kangaroos this time around. People got mad, but I said, nah, he's doing his other side of his family. He's done one side of his family in Samoa. He got injured, unfortunately. Yeah. So he didn't play the rest of the games, but he's kangaroos.
And again, that's the whole complexity of identity, huh? And so that's why a lot of these boards, a lot of these sporting organizations don't acknowledge, a lot of these athletes belong to several. Yeah. So then there's some who, have Maori, Samoan blood, so they're entitled to play for New Zealand or Samoa. So then, a lot of the rulings need to acknowledge the fluidity and the multiple identities that a lot of these athletes have, rather than them being used to, the colonial country saying, no, you're ours and only ours. Or if you want to go play for them, like, we cut you off. Like, that's such an archaic old way of thinking.
Yeah. I was really impressed with Australia, especially Samoans there. Because when I first heard they celebrate the Independence Day, Samoan Independence Day, like they have official, events.
It's massive. Yeah, I grew up going to those.
Like we didn't ever do.
Yeah,
we never did. I was like, man, how come you guys do it? Like,
yeah, and again, so me and other Pacifica researchers in Australia, to us, Australia is the new country for us to practice and recreate our culture how we want it. So my research showed, our people had a cultural experience here in New Zealand, whatever it was. And so then when they move over to Australia, that's a new space, that's a clean slate for them to continue, change, or, to make whatever they want of it, whatever being Samoan looked like now, away from any of the good or bad experiences they had here in the New Zealand context. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And more money helps too.
And more money, it definitely helps when more money helps, and it's going to the Australian context, it's refreshing because you see Pacifica cultures here so much and so prevalent. Sometimes some people can get tired from it. It was like, okay, they have that joke. You see more tawalungas in Auckland than you do in Apia. Yeah. I've been to more ava ceremonies in Auckland than I've been to in Samoa, and you understand the reasons why, because we're away from home.
Yeah.
So we've got to really
dig deep in
and do it. And do it all on steroids. But then when they go to Australia, because we're such a ethnic minority with relation to the rest of the population, it really causes a lot of us to rethink what our identity is and who we are. So throughout my study, there were some that I had here that were like, I'm Afakasi, so I don't speak the language, blah, 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 and whatnot. And then when they come over to Australia, that term Afakasi doesn't really stand. It's like, oh no, you're an islander. Like, so then
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't really, it's like there's so few of us that we take all of us. We take,
Right.
if you got 5, we
Doesn't matter.
It's makwa claim hard out. Yeah, we'll claim if you've got like 2, 5, and then the rest of society looks at you different as well, and they're like, I don't even know where Samoa is, and then they get questioned in terms of, why don't you speak your language? Like, it doesn't matter if you actually are. So then a lot of them have their cultural moments in Brisbane. So I had seen a few who had no interest in the culture here, but then when they moved to Australia and, they had those experiences of their culture and their identity being challenged and being questioned constantly by both our people in mainstream society, and then having their own kids saying, Papa, I want to speak our language, the same one that your parents speak, that you kind of can't speak. Don't you? And so then that becomes the drive for them to start learning, which was really interesting. I really enjoyed that part of my study, seeing, some of the ones that didn't have an interest in it in New Zealand, and then they moved over to Australia. They had their kids, and it's like, okay, I'm the be all and end all. I'm the gateway to whether my kid's gonna speak it or not. Yeah. So then that's when it gets like deep, and it's far beyond yourself. And so then that's why a lot of the different Pacific language classes in Brisbane are well attended.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really think about that. Like that, when you move over, like, and you're so few of us there, you tend to want it more. You want to know it more. Yeah. No, it makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Where it is over here is like sort of normalized. So it's like you either do, you don't. It doesn't
we're
matter.
in the mainstream society here. We're so mainstreamed here, in second most spoken language in Auckland City. Yeah. As we're there, we're still very much, far and few between. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of us, but still, yeah.
So in Australia, your family still there in Australia?
Yeah, so my parents and my siblings all still there. Yeah.
Oh, so what brought you back to New Zealand all by yourself?
To be an awesome teacher at the most awesome university ever.
Yeah. Was that the plan, or did you just...
Yeah, I'd always, I think... Yeah, no, that's an interesting point, and I've had this conversation because, so the Pacifica spaces in Australia are really picking up now. So it's picked up and it's got momentum in a way that it never has before, particularly with this Prime Minister, Albanese, is the most pro-Pacific Prime Minister we've ever had.
Oh, really?
So then I'm like, to all the Pacific people, I was like, y'all better hurry right this way, in case he gets voted out. Or,
is he like the Labour Party? Is he? Or the...
Yeah, so he's very, progressive and, full, he's the most pro-Pacific Prime Minister that I've lived, that I had lived under in Australia. Where was I going with that one?
There's a lot of good things for...
Yeah, no, sorry.
For
Pacifica. No. Yes, sorry.
Pacifica. A lot of doors been opened.
Yeah.
Are these doors like that let you climb the ladder so you can sit on the table at the end of it? Are those kind of doors?
Yeah, no. So with Pacifica now, it's blowing up in a way that it never has. All these different initiatives, all these different people. We have more people qualified, and we've got more Pacific social workers, got more Pacific teachers, academics across the board, lawyers. So that's all growing there now. And I knew a lot of them told me, they're like, we need you here now while this is all happening. Like, are you going to stay here? Can you stay here? And I remember saying, I was like, yeah, no, I know I'm supposed to go to New Zealand now. After I graduated with my PhD, and having lived in the Australian Pacific space, and tried to serve in the Australian Pacific space, I knew and I felt a pull to come here to New Zealand now, because I believed I had a lot to give to the New Zealand Pacific space, and I have a lot to learn as well. With New Zealand being world leading in terms of indigenous, indigenous movements and indigenous this and indigenous that and Pacific this and Pacific that. I was like, no, I've got to go back to my country of birth, because a lot of the initiatives that we do in Australia were from people who were grassroots doing the initiatives here. So we're always trying to recreate like another Otara, or try and recreate another Maangele in Brisbane. But I'm like, oh, now I want to go back home to the real thing. I was like, we've done this the past 23 years, trying to establish all this and that, and there's been some awesome stuff. I was like, now I want to go back to where it all started, here in Tamaki Makaurau. Yeah.
When you say they try to recreate Otara over there in Brisbane, not the economic side of it.
The cultural side of it, in terms of like the Pacifica Festival. So we have Pacifica festivals there. How they have the Auckland Samoa, then they have the Queensland Samoa. So a lot of those different cultural stuff across the board, are being recreated and have been recreated in the Australian context now. Yeah. And so I basically, if I was to look, that's what we had been doing all this time. And so, and it has some awesome, fruitful things there, and it's awesome. But I'm like, I got to come back to the OG land where it all started. Yeah, where Polyfest actually originated from, where Pacifica Festival actually originated from. And it's I share an experience. I was at a high school I went to a high school in Logan, where it's predominantly Pacific, and they had their multicultural day. They call it multicultural, but it's mostly islanders. And my good friend who was a teacher there, Dr. Ruth Faleolo, so she used to teach at Sir Edmund, and now she teaches at Bentley High School in Australia. She said, Dion, look at the crowd of the parents there, and look at these students. A lot of these students were like, in their last years of high school. And she said, they're majority New Zealand born Pacifica. And then that kind of like the parents. And then that kind of shocked me, because I remember when I was in high school doing this back in Australia, and all of our parents were island born, So this is really, I think it was one of those slap in the face moments that the next generation is coming. Like we're at that passing of the torch. A lot of us first to be born in New Zealand were, well, I felt like we were kids forever and ever, Yeah. As we're now, when I went back to the Australian context, and I saw there was several hundred parents there. They were all mostly Māori Pacific New Zealand born. Yeah. And so their kids were either Australian born or were born in New Zealand but raised mostly in Australia, carrying on the culture in 2023. So then we're now starting to see that, it felt like forever when our parents, that time where we were born as kids, and, they were our parents who came from the islands were trying to instill the culture in us. As we're now, when I go to Australia, a lot of them are New Zealand born, trying to instill the culture on their kids who are now teenagers and entering uni. Yeah. That's crazy.
It's the cycle, right? Because my parents came from Samoa to settle in New Zealand. Yeah. For better opportunities for their kids.
Yeah.
And same reason why New Zealand born go to Australia. For better life, for more money and better life for their kids.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing. That's why I see heaps of islanders pop up in the Wallabies and the in and around now. Because in and around is like what, over 50% Polynesian now.
Yeah. And the younger grades, the under 20s and that, oh man, that's even like, there's mostly island. Yeah. The trend is going to continue to go that way.
Yeah. And it's similar to like America, we have all the African Americans playing NBA. You know, like back in the days, it was all white, and then because African Americans are good at basketball, right now there's predominantly African American now, and we'll probably will see that in the NRL in the future. You know, just all Polynesians maybe.
Probably the way it's going, who knows? It's an interesting and exciting space and time to be in now. You know,
because I wonder what it will be like when that happens. Because when you talk about identity, and now when teams fight for players, you know, it's gonna be a lot of there'll be a lot of guys to choose from, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to Toa Samoa, it'll be like a whole bunch of people to choose from. You know.
Yeah, and I think it's cool too. Another difference between back in the day-ish and now is a lot of our athletes are not confined to just one sport. So then you have the Mailatas and that, you know, they're, as an athlete, they're their own agent to fluidly move into whatever, like, you know, whatever sport they want to, and the different transitions that come from rugby to NFL, you know, to American football, or rugby to boxing and that. So, you know, our athletes' identities are complex in nature, and then their professional careers are also complex. Now it's not as straightforward as it was once upon a time, which I think is really cool. Yeah. More power to the athlete.
Yeah. Are you in conversations when they talk about the genetic makeup of a Polynesian person and sports? You know, like it seems like we're made to play these contact sports. We're made to play rugby. We're made to play football. We're made to play boxing. You know, the physicality of our makeup. You know, how big we are. Especially when you see the age groups, the young kids, and you see the big Samoan guy, same age. He's 7 years old, but he look his body of a 12-year-old or 15-year-old. You know. Yeah.
Yes and no. So those. Yes.
And how the Paling can take advantage of that. You know.
Yeah. So there's must cite my references, Professor Brendan Hokofitu and Dr. David Lakisa and other Pacific sport academics have turned around and said, and it is true, you know, that's the narrative a lot of them drum to take away from the hard work that our Pacific athletes do. So then they try to drum up the narrative of the Pacific athlete as a natural athlete who's bigger build, so then more, you know, expected to be a gun as player, which then totally negates, like, no, they had hard work, they put in hard work, and the skill, you know, it undermines the skill that they had and the hard work that they put in to get there. So there's some of that narrative is, you know, may have some merit, but then there's also a big detrimental part to that narrative in terms of there have been people and organizations that use it to undermine and underscore the hard work and the other talent that a lot of them possess, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I guess that's what people see.
Yeah.
And then it's like the whole thing, like you see the result, but you never see the hard work that goes. Yeah, it's like that the iceberg in the water.
Yeah,
like big.
No. Yeah. So, where it goes from here, I don't know.
Yeah. Because that leads me into what the like there's other narratives out here of us Polynesians being good at sport and the way these big corporations take advantage of it. Like, say for instance, rugby union and world rugby. See a lot of Pacific Islanders playing for other countries, you know, and like I think it's because of the rules, the eligibility rules been around for so long that players got no choice to play for another country if you're there playing for a club that's paying you a lot more money than you would ever be paid before, you know, and you get residency and then you get the opportunity to play, you know. And I don't know, because when I think about the rugby league rules, the eligibility rules are different, right? You have tier 1, you can't go across, but you can go down. You can go down and up, tier 1 and tier 2. You know, which I think is a big reason why you see a lot of players play for Samoa and Tonga because of these rules. Because they can choose. They get the choice now. You can play for Tonga or you can play for Kangaroos or Kiwis.
Yeah.
But the law of the jersey is strong enough for them to, I'm going to play for my home.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So the rules allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And rugby union is different. They don't have those kind of rules. So to me, it's more, I don't know, corrupt or more, they don't,
rigid. Yeah.
they're not in touch with the whole thing of us, why we love to play for our home. You know, because to them it's just a business. I think to work rugby, it's just a business.
Yes.
You know, we don't care about allegiance because England has Manu Tulangi in the team. You know, and Ireland has Bandiaki.
Yeah.
You know, they don't really care as long as we get the best players playing for us.
Yeah.
You know, and in Japan, like, man, how many proper Japanese players are playing for Japan? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, to me, it's like the colonization of our athletes.
Yeah.
You know.
And again, this tide is turning. There's a movement that's brewing and gaining momentum that a lot of these organizations can't ignore anymore. Yeah, because there's heaps of people doing it, you know. And so it's just, I think for me, it's how do we best support that movement in whatever capacity we have, like as an educator, sports fan, as a bandwagon fan, you know, like how do we help our sons and daughters of Samoa push the good fight, because this goes beyond the sport. This goes to, like I said before, reclaiming of identity, reclaiming of self, reconnecting and nurturing connections with your homeland. And to be honest with a lot of these athletes that were born and raised, in Australia and New Zealand, the Samoan ones, for some of them, this may actually be the only time where they could really, connect to their culture on an international platform. And because realistically, I don't think many of them would ever go back and live in the islands. Yeah. So then this is like this is your ultimate connection to the islands without actually living there and living the whaipopo. And if that is it, then I think that's a beautiful thing in and of itself. Yeah.
And I think the guys that played for Toa Samoa had that opportunity and they have embraced it. They've seen that window of opportunity and they've taken it full-heartedly. I think because they saw MMT do it, we can do it too. They saw the pride that happened with MMT and that, and they can do it too. Coming back to the rugby union thing, like I remember after the first round of MMT started, and I went to the game against the Kiwis and Tonga down in Hamilton. Man, it's just sea of red, right? Sea of red, and I never seen that kind of thing before. This was before the outparades, right? And I was like, damn, because that team was an on team. I think they beat the Kiwis that day. I think so. I think they did. I can't remember, but and then I remember in rugby union, All Blacks, they said, they probably looked at that and said, okay, because they had a game against Tonga. And they had the game down in Mount Smart because it's like, South Auckland area, and no one came. Like, hardly no one came. Like, there was no sea of red, And it was like, did you guys think you're going to get that kind of same support?
Yeah.
Like, were you guys trying to, off the back of the, MMT, try to do the same in rugby? But everyone can see that you're going to win by 100 points.
Yeah.
It's not that's not fair. No one's gonna watch that.
Yeah.
So I thought it was disgusting. It's kind of,
Yeah.
Like it backfired.
Yeah. And again with the whole fandom stuff, so what interests me is one aspect of fandom that interests me is when the away team, the visiting team's fans outnumber the home team. And so I'll never forget, we saw that when the Kangaroos played Toa Samoa one, I forgot what year it was, back in New South Wales. I think it was Wollongong. Yeah. It was a sea of blue. Yeah, you would have thought it was Apia Stadium, and you would have thought it was a Samoa was actually played in Australia, and it was, so seeing that that mass takeover, and then the Samoan Council in Sydney arranged buses to go down to the game and all of that. But that's just how ride or die we are. That's how ride or die we are to see our sons and our brothers play and support them, because that's in essence who they are to us. Yeah, it's not just a random, like there's that family connection. And when they go and when the tour go in and say their villages, every Samoan would whakapapa or would have ngafa connection to at least one or two or several of the villages of one of the teams. So you have that, that deep ancestral familial connection.
In your research, because it's fandom in your research, is it? Or
it's a whole bunch of sporting stuff. I'm on heaps of different research projects.
But the specific one, well, part of our conversation, what we're talking about is the fandom part, but is it trying to find out where it comes from? This passion, this kind of why we are on the back of Toa Samoa, like, and how what part of that sort of dynamic can we use for other things? Is that?
That's one aspect of my research. But again, that's a really important one. Yeah. So what can we? So us as Samoans, we did this. We did this big tour movement, and we felt all these things, and we moved, and we, even so that the tour parades in Carson, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
There are Bloods and Crips there holding hands. The
unity.
The unity.
The
so
unity
then,
of
in other circumstances, a lot of what happened wouldn't necessarily happen. All the different behavioral patterns, But why did it happen for Toa Samoa? Yeah, so why did we spend a lot? Why did we join hands and hang out with people that we didn't like or we normally wouldn't like? These parades. Why were we running on the streets when we normally wouldn't be running on the streets, with our tops off? Why did we do all of this in the Toa Samoa setting? And what was awesome about it that we can then take to the next level? Yes, I'm still trying to decipher all of that. How can that translate into educational practice, like to become a better teacher, better work with community? It's all I feel like every Samoan could take one lesson or one learning from the Toa Samoa experience.
From my experience, like, hearing you say that, like, I'm thinking, okay, what was it? I'm thinking there's a lot of factors that go into it. I think it didn't end up to be a domino effect.
Yes.
It just, it's like a snowball effect happened. But I think if you look at the foundation of it, it's the players first, right? It's the individual players. Because now we're seeing in NRL, we're getting the numbers of Polynesians going up, numbers of Pacific Islanders going up in the game, numbers of quality Pacific Islanders going up. You got the Penrith Panthers, and we're seeing their story. Now we're seeing the story of the Penrith Panthers. They live in the west side of Sydney. A lot of Pacific Islanders live there. And it's like Mount Druitt and all those kind of places that we are familiar with, because we know when we think of Mount Druitt, we think of or Blacktown and stuff like that. We think of Otara and South Auckland, so we can identify what kind of place that is, and the place that we can go over and be at home. Because we're familiar. And then we hear the stories of Jerome Luai and Brian To'o and Stephen Crichton, and that we see them coming up, and we see how good they are. And then we see other players starting to be good, and that could be picked for the Kangaroos. They could be. And then we're like, man. And then we dream, like, man, imagine if we had them for Toa Samoa. Next minute they're playing for Toa Samoa.
And that's because I remember, that's an interesting point, because back in the day, for everyone kind of knew, but they would look at the Samoa Union and the Samoan League team as, you weren't good enough to make it for Australia or New Zealand, so you went by default to the Manu. That was whether that's right or wrong, different conversation, but that was the kōrero amongst our people, and that was the train of thought. As we're now, this movement now is something different and it's something special, because there's a whole bunch of them that could be playing for the Kangaroos or, the Kiwis that have then chosen. So then that makes this movement now far more different than anything we've ever seen before.
And they make the state origin teams.
Yeah.
That's another factor.
And they're like the top players in the sport, like in general, with the most, media cloud and all the rest of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then even seeing them, them and their wives and their girlfriends wearing traditional Samoan, wearing the tapa, wearing all of our mea sina, Samoan Pacific designs. We didn't see that 23 years ago, That's all, that all adds up. All these events that are happening adds up to the increase in cultural pride amongst our people now.
Then it's the Ole
Pese, yeah, see? Yeah.
So, see, that's Jordan, that's pop culture now, That's part of the culture, popular culture.
And then the whole, you look, when the Penrith Panthers won, they had the Ula Lole as well in the Panthers colours. So then that's, an intertwining of Panthers and Samoan culture
exactly.
and that takes up space because everyone's wearing one in the finals. So it's
because it's probably the last 5 years that athletes have now put on blast their culture. Samoan flag
put on blast,
or talk Samoan or in interviews and stuff like that.
Yeah,
even in the NFL you see it, like some of the players there.
Yeah,
like I think. There's Juju Smith-Schuster. He's wearing the Iwhakanga.
And then you see, and it's the whole, living in diaspora or living away from your homeland, that what you would do normally, you have to like hype it up. So, when you see those NFL players going to training in their Iwhakanga, you wouldn't go to training for your local village for Moka'a on island, like in a Iwhakanga, but and a pimped up Iwhakanga and ula fala to training or to your game, because it's just being, you're in Samoa and it is what it is. As we're here, we're constantly in the space of you have to represent well. Yeah. So then, you see you see some of the, and different, Australia, New Zealand, America have different ways of manifesting that. So then, some of the Polynesian NFL players in America have done some of their trainings in a lava. Yeah. We haven't done that in New Zealand, Australia yet, but it's all, everyone's got their own local, from their own space, their way on how they interpret the culture and the language, which then adds to the overall global fabric of it adds another dimension to what Samoan culture is. Yeah. Samoan culture is not just in Samoa, and it's not just that's the handbook and that's how you practice it. Every different place has their own way of practicing it, which adds to the overall, cultural practice. And so in terms of the whole going back and forth, I remember, the Polyfest has been strong here in Auckland since, forever. And the Samoan stage has always been strong. And I remember when I was in Samoa, I don't know if they still do it now, they had their first high school's cultural competition. And then I remember the minister said, they've had this in New Zealand for a long time and we are Samoa, we have, so then he was making reference to the fact that this is being done overseas. It's time to do it back in the homeland. So, or there's all this cultural exchange here, there, everywhere. And then with the internet as well, we're...
And social media.
Social media, it's a new realm to learn and teach.
Yeah. Do you think, because when I'm just starting to think about our values as Pacific Islanders, how they can help any sport. The way we are, because you just mentioned how we, because it's how we treat other players too, eh?
Yeah.
Because it's our culture to be. It's all about family, right? So how I can't explain it, but our behaviors is different to
Yeah, and I also notice another reason why a lot of these, not only a lot of these Pacifica initiatives in sport are brought in, is because they're working. Yeah. So they're working, you're getting athletes saying, I don't have to leave my culture at the door. I can bring, they can bring their whole cultural self into the workplace too. They're feeling happier. And the using the Samoan and Polynesian culture for team bonding is working. And so that's why it's continuing, and that's why it's growing in a lot of the sports. And I can say this for Australia too, the team bonding element that comes through Pacific and Samoan cultures comes in a way that mainstream Australia doesn't know how to do.
Right.
So then the whole, you get auntie to cook and blah, blah, blah. And then, everyone does a prayer, that brotherhood. I mean, yes, Australia's got their own concepts of brotherhood, but it's not as strong as, which is why we're getting called upon, to run this event or to, I've seen it with my own eyes in a lot of different sports in Australia where they rely on the Pacific person to build the club's culture.
Right.
Using your own culture. So then, we have, all of us, just remember the power that we have in our cultures, and then know that it's not just to make you feel good, and it's not just the form of inclusion. It's actually got a competitive advantage of it. So there's values and there's stuff within our culture that Western society doesn't have. Yeah. Western society doesn't have a thing where it makes all the players bow down to the grandparents. We do. They're so just ensuring, that we know the power of our culture, and that the power of our culture can answer things and do things that Western culture can't. Yeah.
It reminds me of the decolonization movement there, because I read about how, the thing with colonization is that they took what's good and left behind what they didn't want, but maybe they left behind something that would help them now.
Who's this?
Like the Balangis.
Yeah.
When they colonize, they only take what they think is good for them or good for society.
Yeah.
And they'll leave behind what they think, don't understand.
And then they'll claim that they came up with it. Then they'll whitewash what they took.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like, everyone's going back to organic now.
Yeah.
Like
we were always organic.
We were always organic.
Organic. Yeah.
That kind of stuff, huh?
Yeah.
So I think when you talk about how we can use our values in sport to better the team, or, to help the team better the team, that's in a way bringing something that the Balangis don't understand, because they probably left it behind when they did the colonization thing. So we don't want that, but that thing that they said we don't want will probably help society right now.
And I think too, the other part of it is, and even if they valued it, they wouldn't know how to carry it out because it's not a natural part of their being. It's a natural part of our DNA and every day and what we do, as where even if they did like it, they wouldn't be able to implement it and teach it like us, because we are that. Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of documentaries, or even when you watch little bits on TV about, especially sports in the UK. I mean, the game of rugby in the UK, and you know how they suck all the players around the world to play for their teams because they got a whole lot of money. Like, you got different ethnicities in one team in England, right? You got Samoans, you got Tongans, you got South Africans, and then they always have the island stuff, the team bonding stuff.
Yeah,
and you got always the islander there.
Yeah, the
like
Tuilangis set up the Kaulunga and all that stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
That's right.
They do the umu, and they're all doing it.
Yep.
In the back of the house, like in England, right?
Yeah.
But I like it's cool to see the other players like embrace it.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cool. Like, man, we just sit down and have cover.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, huh?
And some of it is a brotherhood and it's a family bonding that some of them have never experienced before. So then again, that's all the power of, when you go through all the media clippings and then when you go through a lot of the media interviews of these Palangi coaches and these Palangi teammates' interactions with Pacific culture, it's a similar narrative the whole time. They're like, yeah, I've never experienced this warmth, or I've I've never connected with spirituality, just a whole bunch of stuff that a lot of us have taken for granted, may have taken for granted growing up, because, you just are. And then it's interesting hearing your own culture, your own cultural practices from other people's eyes.
Yeah.
And other, it's like, oh yeah, that, so an example I remember of that was, there was a rugby club in England that I went to, and I saw one of them did a tawalunga, and then, more drunken one, because you're all hyped. And then the amount of palangi said when I said, that was absolutely amazing. I loved it. Oh my gosh. Like, it was so powerful. Were you talking to your ancestors? Blah, blah. But then to us, it's just like, just like another random, but then just seeing how others appreciate what we do and who we are from a different lens, from an outsider lens. I find it really fascinating. Yeah. Even, I've seen Samoan performances all around the world, and then, it's just the way it's appreciated by others is, it's heartwarming. And it's totally fascinating.
It really is. And when you see it on TV, you're like proud. Like, I'm proud when I see it.
Because when you see a siva at Otara Flea Market, let's face it, they're like, oh shucks, they're blocking the way because I want to go get those donuts over there. Like, you're not really sitting there like, because we see it all day, every day. But it's like an extra special thing.
And I can see the influence Pacific Islanders have, especially the ones that go overseas to play rugby. And you see it. It's funny because, when you watch Mana Samoa play against England and they lost, it's like really heartbreaking. You just hate it because you want them to beat England, you know. And you hate it when Manu Tulangi plays for England. He should be wearing the blue, You're
like his brothers.
Like his brothers. And you're like, every time Samoa loses to a European team, one of the Northern Hemisphere teams, you always get mad, But then you sort of like, even when after the game, when the game's over and they're all talking to each other, because they all play again, all play with each other. In the UK, right? So they're talking away like friends, and I was like, oh man, I feel like I'm just still mad that they lost.
Still mad.
Why are you talking to me?
It's similar to the Kangaroos versus Toa game, and then Tino Fasua Maleaui was holding the Samoan flag, and then I remember my auntie wrote, she's like, Lefaoali'i.
But even when I don't know if you remember, but when the Kangaroos won, they came into the change rooms and
that's right,
celebrating with the Samoan team. So celebrating their loss.
And again, the whole when you look at them, even our brothers that choose to play for Australia and New Zealand, no one can deny their blood. This is a blood thing, so that doesn't make them not Samoan for playing for, but they just happen to wear another jersey, but they're still us.
Man. So you going to the Kiwis tour game?
Well, I've got a free spare ticket from my cousin.
Oh yeah.
Are you going?
Yeah, I'll be going. I got a free ticket from my friend.
So I was like, but we'll see if we were you at the fan day? No.
Nah, it was at 3:00. I was still at work. Yeah. But I think there's another fan day on Saturday at Mangindi.
Okay. Before the game, and then
before the game.
Oh, see, it's all happening now. The tour movement continues.
Yeah. So I guess it's gonna be. I watched the game, the Kangaroos game. That was a bit of a. I was disappointed, but it was good because I knew we'll struggle because of our team was a young team, we're young halves in that. Did you watch the game last week?
No, I got to, but we saw the result. I was like, oh shit, damn it.
And of course, Mana Samoa was out. Did you watch the All Blacks game? Do you support All Blacks or do you support the Wallabies when it comes to rugby union?
The All Blacks. But the rest of my family support the Wallabies. I can't. Even though we've been there that long, we're citizens, I still can't bring myself to wear a Wallabies jersey.
Were there always been Wallabies fans, or was it just because the Islanders are popping up now?
No, I think, and it's I noticed a lot of Pacific people that have lived there for a while. A lot of them then end up becoming Wallabies fans, but then there's still a decent group of us Islanders in New Zealand that will hold strong to Aotearoa
Yeah.
who always wear the black. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen. All Blacks all day. Between the two, yeah.
Did you get the chance to be a fan, sports fan, or are you just so busy in your research and stuff?
Yeah, no, you know, but I'm like one of the most extra ones at the parade. Yeah, but then I also look at it through a research lens as well. So I'm living in it, I'm enjoying the moment, and then I'm like, okay, what can we report on from this? Yeah, what can we formulate from this? So, yeah.
So you're a Brisbane Broncos fan?
Yeah, it's been we ain't a Warriors fan. I took the Broncos, but I won't take the Wallabies.
Yeah.
So we're picking and choosing which one. Yeah, so the Broncos.
Yeah, because man, like Penrith, there's a lot of Pacific Islanders live in Brisbane there, so
Yes.
a lot of them coming up in the younger grades.
Yes.
yeah.
Both for the Broncos and the Titans as well.
Yeah.
I think every NRL club now has Pacific Island players in them. Yeah. That's massive. Yeah. Every club in the NRL now. Yeah, our people are represented in every club.
And they're still coming down here to the scout guys too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's been a big change in popularity now between rugby union and league, I think, especially in here because Super Rugby is not really good anymore. Super Rugby hasn't been really good since South Africa left, so it's been dumbed down.
What I'm interested in is so you have the Australian scouts coming for rugby league, which they've been doing for ages, but what I'm fascinated about is the NFL is starting to come here and scout.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so the Polynesian Hall of Fame crew are starting to come for the NFL, are starting to come in and scout here in New Zealand. So they've done stuff in Samoa, American Samoa as a territory in Western Samoa. But I'm excited to see that leg and see this new generation have that opportunity in terms of, American football as a New Zealand born. Yeah.
I always felt their go-to was American Samoa because of the...
Yes, so they've always gone to... Yeah,
they're massive.
American Samoa, but they've also started going to Western Samoa, like Upolu as well. Yeah, and they're coming here to New Zealand. So I think that's a exciting emerging space because, again, generations, telling of the times, they as that continues more, then our youth can, turn around and say, like I can be a American football player because I see these camps, I see people from my neighborhood make it out to the sport. So, yeah.
And Tua.
Yeah,
talking about a lot,
Yeah.
That guy, man, he's been doing good.
Yeah.
He's been
His
doing real good.
His dad came with the delegation that came.
To here?
Yeah, to here.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
So they're just actively looking for more players.
Yeah, looking for the next Mailata.
It's been good because you never sort of heard of Pacific Islanders be in those positions like in the offense, like the quarterback or... They're always in the defense. They're always in the O-line or the D-line,
Yeah.
But now, we have Tua now. That's it's quarterback, man. That's one of the hardest positions to be in. And we got a Samoan guy in there. Yeah. We had Marcus Mariota. He's still, I think he's coming off the bench. I think. Yeah. But now it's a big achievement there to be in a big stage like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what's so is there like a deadline for your research?
No, it's all ongoing and it's all constant. So.
Yeah. Because you've written a lot of publications, eh?
Yeah, so I've been blessed to publish quite a lot. So just trying to get as many through as we can while we're still young.
Yeah. And then do you enjoy that part of it?
And I think the publications are important, and because. So the publications are actually crucial because then that forces the organizations to take our initiatives seriously. Yeah. So a lot of times there's a lot of different meetings where people will float good ideas and, people are like, oh, yay, nay, you can kind of take it casually. But when you have it, research certified through research publications, then you can start implementing it in strategies and programs and that, and they can't deny it. Yeah. So I think that's the somewhat important role I try to play, in terms of getting as many of those publications on the awesome things that our people are doing. So then when they're going to the boardrooms and when they're going to, to do whatever they need to do, that's there to help, them push, whether it's push to secure funding or push to, in whatever reports, anything else they're doing. So it's all very interrelated. Yeah.
So, for example, like what's one of the major issues then that you're trying to solve?
My main
overcome?
passion is honestly the lack of representation of Māori and Pacific in sporting boards. Yeah, across this country. Yeah, it's really bad. So that's the main issue, and in non-playing roles as well. So in the boardrooms and whatnot. So I try to play my part by, trying to bring as many of them to do their masters or their PhD as possible. So then they can go back and sit in those boardrooms, or they can sit in those important areas and advocate for our people with the doctor in front of their name or with the masters at the back of their name. Yeah, that's my main passion. Yeah, is just increasing the number of our people in the boardrooms and in non-playing roles. Yeah.
Do you see yourself in one of those boardrooms in the future?
No, I see myself more as helping those that are gonna be in there.
Yeah.
I think my position, I enjoy the sitting as an educator, researcher, helping develop the next best in the space. Yeah, I get a real kick out of that, and then whatever I teach them, if they go and use it, if it may be useful, or they put their own spin on it, or I really enjoy being at a part of the process and an important part of the process of the next best minds, as university graduates, bachelor's, master's, PhD, and helping shape them and helping, equip them with the tools they need to then fight the good fight and be, the advocates of change in whatever way they see it. Yeah. And it's pretty cool since I've been in these seats, been in this position. I have to say the amount of Pacific people that work in the sports space, their knowledge they have, there are some very intelligent, very smart, very hardworking Pasifika people working in the sports space here in New Zealand. So seeing their victories and seeing what they do really excites me and pushes me to lift my game in all of this. Yeah.
Franchise that comes to mind that's Pacifica is Moana.
Oh, that person?
Moana Pacifica, the
team,
the rugby team.
Yeah,
like that's a great initiative to get players who are Pacifica just up to speed with game time and that, so they can play for Samoa, Tonga, and but that kind of makeup is still under NZR, right? So that's not kind of like if you were to be the boss of that team, you're not really, because you're still under NZR. Is that right? Or
no comment.
But yeah, because I think it's 20%. I think you have to play for All Blacks or align to NZR. 20% of the players or something.
I'm not fully sure of the intricacies and the laws and that surrounding Moana.
Yeah. But yeah, to me that seems like the closest thing we get for our own team.
Yeah.
And whether the makeup of that team, the management side of that, are Pacific Islanders or not.
Yeah.
Like I think Sir Michael Jones is a big part of it.
Yeah.
So I think they're on the board or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have the Lauli Sir Michael Jones, and then we have the Tuifasina Sir Brian Williams. Yeah, you know, legends. You know, fighting the good fight, and they're, you know, holding that space. How and where they've been holding it. But we now need to see like the next generation come through now, you know, the ones in their 40s and their 30s, the next bright minds come and really shake it up. Yeah.
Because when you talk about boards, like I just finished a podcast series called Pieces of Silver, which is a podcast series, I think it's done by RNZ.
Oh, yeah.
But it was about the Silver Lake deal.
Yeah.
And the All Blacks and the NZR. And it goes into like the boards and all that, and they're all like businessmen, you know. They're white businessmen, you know, but they probably got no idea what it's like to be a, you know, rugby player, and they're just doing it like running it like a business, which, you know, they expected to. But the whole Silver Lake deal was a bit of a shambles, like with how long it took to get over the line, and how the Players Association wasn't involved in the beginning, and they came back and all that happened. But it's that kind of thing, It's like trying to get Pacific Islanders in that space.
Yeah.
Up there.
Yeah. And we're building. Yeah. Again, I have the honor of meeting and working with some of the next up and coming that will be working in sport administration and that, and there's some dangerous people. Like, yeah, they're and again, so when you look at those different boards and that, you know, we have to acknowledge, you know, there's Pacific that think that they're, you know, inferior and they don't belong on those boards, and imposter syndrome, when really you need to flip it and double it. It's like, no, you're like twice as good because you had to learn the Western system through all the white degrees, you know, all those Palangi degrees that you got. But then you have this whole wealth of cultural knowledge that you get from your parents and your makais, and that you use both of them. You know, you have two sets of knowledge systems to draw from in occupying that space in the boardroom. Yeah. So you can already anticipate and you already know the Palangi way of thinking when it comes to being a member of a boardroom, but you also know the Pacific as well. And so that's like your, again, competitive advantage, and then that's your skill set that is absent in these mostly Palangi boardrooms. Yeah. I get hit up all the time, heaps, from different boardroom members and that across this country, not just in sport and that, in terms of how do we make it more Indigenous appropriate? How do we make, because they don't have the answers. Yeah. You know, so just recognizing that, you know, in this day and age and in this country, it all counts now. All those cultural learnings, all those times you did your kauloko, all those times you did the ava ceremony, a lot of the learnings and the values and cultural underpinnings from all of that all come to play now in the professional, you know, in your workspace. Yeah.
Do you think the reason why Pacific Islanders are not in the board space is because that's where they stop it? Yeah. Like for me, I think that the Palangi is like, okay, you're qualified, but you're not going to be here.
Yep, there's definitely, I think one of it is, what I've seen is one of them, I believe, the Pacifica I've seen in the sports space, they're so on the ground, like they are hustling on the ground harder, and they're just, you know, real people's people right there with our people working, rolling up their sleeves, getting their hands dirty on the ground. That a lot of, you know, some of the ones that I've seen, they haven't had enough time to go and you know, advocate to be like on some of the boards and that. And then I also see, and then there's also that closing of the gate, and it's like, no, this is, we don't want a Pacific voice in the board. Yeah. We want you as an advisory group. Yeah, exactly. We would want you as like a cultural advisor on the outskirts, but whether they actually put you on the board,
because that makes me sad, you know, and it makes me angry sometimes. And when I think
channel that anger and come and do your PhD with me, and then we'll throw you on one.
But when I think about ticking boxes, man, that's ticking boxes for sure. Like we did everything you want, and we're still not ready. You know, that's how it feels. facts. And like, when we had just had the elections, I don't know if you went into the policies and all that, but the one thing that came to mind was ACT, when they talk about everyone's equal. He wants everyone together. Everyone has an equal share. But then he gets the question, but no one's equal here. Like Pacifica Māori, they're not really equal with everyone. You can't expect us to move up if the system is against us. There's evidence to it. And David Seymour was like, I don't believe that. I think everyone's, man, come on, man. Like, see, that's the kind of mentality. If you have that kind of mentality, then we're not going to get anywhere. Because they can do whatever they want, And it's like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah, all I heard from that was you're going to come and do your PhD. No, but yeah, absolutely right. And so that, again, drills in the importance of doing the best that you can in your chosen field to better serve our people.
Because what I'm talking about is, I think it's sensitive too. Because no one wants to slap away the hand that feeds you, right? No one wants to do that. But when you start being political about stuff, then people will start saying, hang on, this guy's a bit too much. You need to stay away from that guy. But what if it's like how you feel and it's the truth?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you might get in trouble with some of the things you say, and the people above you will be like, oh, you can't say that, or
it's
stuff like that.
Yeah, it's one of those, you're entitled to your own feelings, but you're not entitled to your own facts. So then for me, there,
Who made that up?
One of those I've heard somewhere, but so, I've been in spaces and been outspoken, as a Samoan Pacific man for a little bit. And, I've copped the heat from both sides, from our own people and Pālangi, but it comes down, like the heat that I have copped, I'm like, oh, that's all your feelings. Like when you can actually, but when you actually debunk what I just said, then I'll be like, okay, you know what I mean? So when it comes to a lot of the stuff, some of the things that I've said and some of the fierce advocacy that I've tried to push for and fight for, and I've seen, I have turned some heads and whatnot, but then I put the facts there, and I'm like, well, if you don't like it, argue back. Nothing. And so I was never scared. I think for me, the injustices have been so bad, and the injustices had been so long that, to me, you have to be fearless. So, even my journey doing my master's, if I got $1 for every person that told me that I wouldn't go to university, if I got $1 for every person that laughed when I said I wanted to do my PhD, had I listened to them, I wouldn't be, I wouldn't have the letters to my name, And it's when you look at the system and that, through the system's eyes, I shouldn't be where I am. So I'm like this statistical outlier.
So you've overcome something.
It's like you were raised in, we lived in Housing Commission Auckland, New Zealand, Housing Commission Australia. Had I listened along the way, and the way the system was set up, the system back in Australia was definitely set up to put me in the factory. From the careers person to the teachers, just laughing at me when I said that I wanted to go to university. Had I been scared or kind of listened, it wouldn't have worked. Like I wouldn't be where I am now. So it's one of those, it's you've got to have no fear. And there are times where it's scary, but then it's like, you have to really stake your put your foot down and stand in your space forthrightly. I think I'll never forget when I was doing my PhD at Bond University. There were a whole bunch. There were 2 Cook Island twin sisters, so they were hard science PhD candidates. Yeah, they're shout to them. But in my faculty and in my area, I was the only Islander and the only brown person. Yeah, and I remember feeling a bit out of place and having little feelings of like a bit intimidated and a bit out of place. And then I just remember flipping the script real quick. I was like, nah, screw this. I come from a line of orators, I come from all of this. I was like, why should I be scared of this space? The space should be scared of me, and so I remember I even got looks like, oh, does he belong here? And then I ended up being the top PhD candidate in the whole university. I got the most clout. I got the most, everything. Like I drew a crowd. I got the most media clout and all of that. But you just, and I think the other part that pushes me to do what I do is I'm very aware of, if not me, then who? Yeah. If not you, then who? If not me, then who? If we were in a position where, we had 100 million Samoan professors and, we had all this awesome representation and, there were heaps of islanders on the boards, I wouldn't have this much of an urgency. But I think the fire continues to burn because the inequities and the injustice is so visible now. And so very, very real. So, yeah, all of that in play, I'm like, I can't be scared. Yeah.
It's almost like you're an athlete. You've got that. No, but I'm just saying, like, with all the successful athletes, Pacific athletes we have in the world today, like, it's that mentality of being the best of what you're doing, And I think that's with yourself. Like, you want to be the best at what you're doing. And that made you overcome whatever's going against you. For you to rise up, is same as an athlete, right? Like, any sports guy is like, he wants to be the best player he can be for his team to win.
Yeah, for his team to win. To win.
Yeah.
So they're winning that game and I'm trying to win this game. Is that what
So it's the same mentality.
No.
So if we have that mentality, we could push through, right?
Yeah. And I think the other thing is, I'm like, bro, if I can do it, anyone can do it. So like, because there's some, some academics and, that, they were like the naturally gifted. Not me. So an example, we have the system in Australia at the time in Brisbane called the OP system.
OP, what's that?
So it's like your overall position, your rank that you get when you graduate university, when you graduate high school,
like A, B, C, D.
Yeah, so I have to share this because I'm like, bruh, I'm literally the epitome of, if I could do it, anyone can do it. So then the system is you can get between a 1 and a 21. So 1 is the highest you can get, so like you're like a genius, and 21 is the worst that you can get, right? Ask me what OP I got.
21?
No, I got 19, but you basically get a 20 if you write your name on the test. And
so that's your high school mark.
I got an OP 19, and the worst you can get is a 21, and you basically get a 20 for just writing your name, turning up and writing your name. But I used that experience because, it's, to me, it's not about the natural talent. It's about the grit and how hungry you are. Yeah. How determined you are and how much self-belief you have to then continue and pursue. I mean, as a 16-year-old, that can like break you. It's like, wow, you're so dumb. You got a 19. You basically, but then, it's that constant grit and the constant persistence. And,
so how did you transition then? How did you use that? How did you use that to better yourself?
No, and it's
Because what I'm thinking that you're going away where you said you're going towards working in the factory after that.
yeah. No, so I was preparing to, and again, I was like, oh, Jackson, that's my So I at the time, so I put in my so I got that, I was devastated. I was like, shucks, like get the high vis ready. And then and then I got into a university because they had what's the word? They were just trying to fill the course here. And so every step of my university degree, I also wasn't meant to be there. So I only got in to do my bachelor's because they were short in numbers and they were trying to fill seats. So I took it. Yeah. So then again, you have that whole imposter syndrome. You're on borrowed time. You're not even meant to be here. You're just here because they need to make numbers. Then I went. My master's, same thing. I tried to apply for master's and they said my grades weren't good enough to be in master's. Then I wrote this, and I just kept not taking no for an answer. Stuff that. You're not gonna get in the way of me and my dream. No one. And so then when I got to my master's and they said, no, we can't enroll you. I tried for 2 years to get in. Then the third year I was just wrote them this big ass letter saying I've matured, I've learned, life skills, put me on probation, whatever. And then the guy said, we'll put you on for the first 6 months and if you cake it, we will pull you out. Yeah, you'll but if you do well in the first 6 months, you can finish the masters. And so I did the masters. I really enjoyed it. I passed well and then got it. And then, then I went and lived in Samoa and whatnot. And then I came back to do my PhD. And then, another roadblock. I was like, can I do my PhD? And they're like, no, you did your master's all in coursework. You have no research experience. So you can't enter the PhD. I'm sorry. And then I was like, what if you put me on probation? And then, and so then, that's what they did. So they put me on a year of probation and then lucky they did. And then I was able to do well and I was the top PhD candidate for Bond University throughout my time there. But then had I just given up all those steps through from the OP19 to OP19 to your grades suck in your bachelor's to no research experience,
Well, was it because you felt like you had second chances all the time and you just wanted to just not disappoint your second chance?
Yeah, I think, absolutely.
And then oh shit, I got another chance.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose it.
And I think too, the other part was I'm like, oh no, I can push the boundaries. Yeah, I think, I was like, there's always a way. Yeah, how badly you want it, there's always a way. You make the way. And so that's how and then, now we're here and, I was such a troubled student, I remember, and I've only learned as I got older. When I was in primary school here in New Zealand, once every 2 months, my primary school teacher would take me to read in front of a whole bunch of other educators and whatnot, right? And then she'll give me a chocolate bar because I did that and I used to feel so special. I didn't know that she was using me as an example of failing kids to read properly. It was when I got older, I was like, oh yeah, she always picks me to read a little. I was the model kid of showing how behind the primary school kids. It's if I ever meet her again, Miss Getty's here.
Yeah.
Your boy's now a doctor who had reading problems back then.
No, that's amazing how we came from where you are now. Yeah. When you went to Samoa and lived there, how long did you live there for?
2 years.
2 years. Was that based on your PhD, like when you did the study on Samoa?
No, so I did my master's in international relations, so like politics in Australia, and then I just felt this pull that I wanted to go back to the homeland. You know, you hear all these stories of our parents when they lived there, and I would go there for holidays for long periods of time. I was like, no, I want my own lived experience stories of living there. Yeah. And yeah, my parents were against it. They're like, "Why do you want to go there for? Yeah, you'll make more money here." Yeah. Yeah. But nonetheless, I went there, and those were the best 2 years of my life to this day.
It's a lifestyle, eh?
Yeah, and just I think living in the diaspora, being born and raised in the diaspora, you hear of all these stories and that's all you really have to go by of what the Samoan life in Samoa is. So it's not until you go there and you actually live there with no return ticket back that you then really truly understand why things are done the way they are and why your parents are the way they are and your aunties and uncles, because you've gone back and you're now gone to their world. Yeah, and it was living in the islands for 2 years and everything that I learned there and this big cultural revival experience, the whole like, oh my gosh, wow. That then pushed me to do my PhD. So then I was like, I've got all this, these awesome lived experiences. I'm ready to go and carry out the study because I have such a strong belief in the cultural systems that are in play that I want to do this at a PhD level. Yeah. And so that's also why I don't know if you've ever heard when people say like, you don't know what it's like, you never lived in Samoa. It's very true. Yeah. So, you can only know so much about Samoa in the diasporic context, but to really know it from a deep rooted, sense, there's no substitution but to go back there and live there in the village on a local wage or even an expat's wage, but just to live there and be an active citizen of the country. Yeah. There's no other way to deeply learn the language. Not so much the language, but to learn what Samoa's about than living there. Yeah. So we have all these awesome initiatives. We have the awesome language schools and all that. All these initiatives, I hard out 100% support. They're needed, May the funding gods above give them more funding because they're pushing the good fight. But there is no substitute for going there and living there amongst it all. Yeah. So yeah, if any, and I always say, if you have the capacity or if you can, go back there and do a stint there. Whether it's for 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, the rest of your life. Because you would have a lot to learn and you would also have a lot to teach as well when you go over there from the experiences that you have here. But yeah, I'm a big advocate for go back home and live there. When the time that I lived there, we had our own overseas crew, so other Samoans that were born and raised overseas, and so we're all there for different reasons, and so we were like a trauma bonding group. So then we'll all like share our good experiences and our bad experiences and everything in between. So yeah, there's always like a sizable group of overseas born that live on island now. So yeah, but the best, those are the best times. Yeah.
Because I always had when I went there, first time I went there in 2001.
Yeah.
I always thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if everyone from overseas came back home and put their expertise back into the country,
Yeah.
Like we could make it better or try and make it better, certain things, eh? Like with the skills we gain overseas education, they come back home, our home away from home and do something, like start a business or do something.
Be careful how you say that, you'll get a lot of haters on island. But yeah, this, and again, but then it's also the learning. So I actually learnt the most that I've ever learnt when I lived there. So yeah, us overseas can bring our skills there and, somewhat help it out. But what a lot of people don't know is how much of the local workforce has been educated overseas and comes back and, really like do some damage as well. Like Samoa's got, I know when I was living there, they said we have too many lawyers. Like we're just, there's all these people who have been, went to law school, New Zealand, Vanuatu, and then they come and then they do jobs like just writing speeches and stuff like that. And Samoa has a whole bunch of accountants, So
especially the jobs our parents said to do when we were kids.
Yeah, a lot of them have So the expertise on islanders was honestly out of this world. And the fact, because so a lot of the workforce I had were local that my colleagues were born and raised there, educated overseas, whatever university they went to. Then they came back on island and they had to navigate those two systems on a Samoan budget. Like that's tough. And the other thing I noticed too is I encourage, any overseas person, any diaspora, born and raised, if you're feeling that pull to go and stay in the islands, like, just do it, And one of those, just do it and then join our group that we started. I know it's still running strong.
Oh, so it's like a organization that sends
No, it's not really an organization. It's more like our own, like, informal group. I know we've still got some of our friends there holding it down.
And saying that, that's a good initiative, to have, like, for kids, to go back and, like, say you set up like a support thing for kids overseas to go Samoa for experience, just to live there for a year or something and go back. Yeah,
because they had the Paradise Cove, so they had the initiative where they had the supposed naughty Palangi kids from America, and they would come, and so.
I think Allen Iverson's son was there.
Pardon?
Allen Iverson's son was there.
From really?
Yeah,
really?
So Allen Iverson came over to Samoa and took photos of the locals and.
So no, that's more collab with on island would be awesome for our youth. And
speaking of Samoa, I've had a couple of people on the podcast talk about getting their bell.
What's that?
And man, I read your little article about it on
did you?
Coconut TV.
Yeah.
Man,
when did you read it?
I read it yesterday. And man, but your take was awesome.
Yeah.
Because you're right when you described it, you described the pain around the pain and what it did to your body and what it did to your mind. I felt like I was getting it done when I was reading it.
Oh, good. That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, man. And I was thinking that this guy is trying to make me feel it. Like when I was reading it, that was well written, man. That was really good.
Yeah. So and it's controversial too, because that damn Tatao debate is, man, it's so. But my take is, if you don't have it, you have no right to tell someone else.
That was the heading there.
Yeah. And that's so very true. Yeah. If you have not given your life to the ao and you do not bear the markings of the Tatao or the malu, you have no right to tell someone else how to wear theirs. You didn't earn that right. And if we're going to go back to the real old school for Samoa, matters of the Tatao were actually not spoken amongst those who didn't wear it. Yeah. So because I see a lot of these posts of all these people like blah blah blah, cover your malu, cover your pet, blah. And I was like, oh, do you have one? No, you don't. Yeah, I was like, wow, the hypocrisy. Yeah. Go get one and then complain about how other people wear it, and then we might listen. You got jumped in. You got jumped into the bat gang. But like if you,
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say that because that was a good piece of writing.
Oh, I'm glad. That out of all the stuff that I've written, that was the most personal writing that I've ever done. Yeah.
Yeah, about personal.
Yeah, it was very personal. Yeah, I was like, they open your ass cheeks. Like, I can smash the owl in there. Yeah, you collapse the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
But yeah, even with the tatau, it's weird because now that I wear it, I feel a connection to anyone else who wears it, even if I don't know them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And it's hard to describe, but then it's like once you've got it, then it's like, I get it. It's one of those, those lived experience things, like you understand the life in Samoa when you live there, and then you understand the tatau once you bear the markings.
Yeah. So what are your personal feelings about it? Like, what do you think it does for your identity? And
for me, it's one of those. It's like a permanent marking to me to remind me, like, my life is indebted to serve. Yeah. And for me,
that's what you do anyway.
Yeah, so that's what I do anyway, try to do. But then I think the other part too is I now feel fully clothed. I'm not naked anymore.
Oh, wow. That's good.
Yeah, I'm no longer naked. Yeah. And I remember my cousin, shout out to the future doctor, Agapetos Fa'aleava. When I got it, the first thing she said to me was, "You are no longer naked in my presence." Yeah, because she has a man. Yeah. And so, I just feel fully clothed, more connected to other people who bear these markings. And I think for me, it gives me appreciation for life itself a lot more. Yeah. The pain, so I can't speak on it from a female's point of view, but the way that men are, biologically constructed, and then going through the torturous pain and how long it is, it really, I have this appreciation that I went, I literally gave my life to the tufunga and to the ao, and I came out on top. Yeah, I survived to tell the story, and I finished it. Yeah, and so I just have this appreciation on life that I will never go through that again. But I also have the appreciation of, I'm glad I went through that journey because that has taken my brain and my mental toughness to the next level. Yeah. Yeah, you can survive that, survive anything, yeah. I could literally have a gang jump me and I'm good. I'm like, jump me, put me in the hospital. Because a man's hand cannot inflict as much pain as the owl. Yeah. So, and since having this, I have more of a urgency to be there for my family and friends when they go through the journey as well. So it's like this cycle. So I'm going to see my friend get her malu in Sydney December. But it's one of the most spiritual, cool, unreal facets of being a Samoan, getting the la'e and then wearing it. Yeah.
How long have you had it?
I got it mine last year.
Okay.
Yeah. But then
pretty recent.
Yeah, so then all my cousins and that, they checked, they're like, oh, he's been allergic to pants ever since he's got it. I was like, yeah, because I'm wearing permanent pants, brah. But to anyone that's getting it, kudos and happy preparation, and you can never over prepare for this, and be ready to be pushed somewhere you've never been pushed before. In saying that, so it was one of the hardest things I ever did, but then in saying that, this was the most spiritual I had ever. The pain took me to another level where I had seen like my ancestors and my grandma, and I just seen all these other things that I'd never seen before. It's almost like probably drugs. And then when the owl stops and then, your body like stops shaking and it resets, and it's like, oh wow, like, we're in the physical real world now. I was riding a rainbow like, in my head before. Yeah.
How long were your sessions for?
They varied. I think after a while you just lose count. Yeah. Because to me, the son, everyone's different, but to me, the man that deserves to get the better is the one that finishes. Yeah. Like, I don't care how much you know or how much you don't know about the language and the culture, because that can all be learned, and that's a lifelong. You know heaps, awesome. You know hardly anything, whatever. It's the mental toughness of finishing this, which is why they have that comment. The ones that have the most to say about the tatau are normally the ones who don't have it. Because whenever the ones that are great, whailaunga and all of that, whatever, or those that, can barely say any words in Samoan, as soon as I see they have the tatau, they have my utmost respect. Because we literally spilt our blood. We literally spilt our blood for the survival of this important art form, this important mea sina of Samoa. So irrespective of whatever, I'm like, yep, you're a bad man. You're a bad man, and bad brotherhood. There's a page out there, and so I note, so there's a page for those that have the pe'a, the men that have the pe'a, and so every one of my friends, the day that they get it, I add them in the page. I was like, welcome. Like, this is the secret society of the tatau.
No, that's cool. That's really cool. That's really
Would
cool.
you ever plan to get one?
No. I was never my thing to get any tattoos.
Yeah, it's interesting because I used to say that a lot too. So I asked my mom if I could get it, and she said no.
No.
I was like, oh, damn it. And then I was like, I'm never going to get it. And then I got just this big burning desire to get, then there's like certain things that then you're ready. Then I started having dreams that I had it, and then I would wake up and then I didn't have it, and visions, and then like all this fire in me to do it. And then I remember I asked my mum and she said no. And then I told her, I said, I'd rather get my tatau while you're still alive than when you pass away. Then she knew I meant business. And then she knew my mind had switched to another level, and then she gave me her blessing. And then
because I think it came big when I was in and around 7th form, after 7th form, I finished school.
What year is this?
It's 96, 97. And then people my age started to get it just slowly, and then started to get popular. Then a lot of people got it. Then now it's like a normal thing to get it now, eh?
Yeah, there's
a lot of people, because you see it on social media all the time, And I feel like there's a big revival of it, Even the Tongans too, they're getting the old ones done now.
Yeah, no, and again, the whole revival is beautiful because, and I had written in that article too, you can take as many photos of the tatau, you can sing as many songs about the tatau, and you can learn as many random facts about the tatau, but it is only those of us who have it etched in our skin, who have got it, that, that truly keep tatau alive. Yeah. So for every body that the tatau, is on, is another chance for our mea sina to stay alive. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
And just the other interesting point, and you can go ask the Suluapes. The Suluapes have said it too. That saying, "Ka mu mulo nguku," and E ka muli lo kingo. Do you know where that came from? Like they say, tattoo your mouth before you tattoo your legs.
Isn't that like you gotta be a certain way? You gotta it's like the service thing, right?
But do you know the origins of that saying? It's really interesting.
No.
So a lot of people say that, and they say it with their nose and their chin up like this,
right?
But they don't know the origins of where that saying came from and why it was said. That's not an old saying from Samoa. That's a saying that was done around the 80s and the 90s here in New Zealand, which was created by people who were too scared to get it when the Sulu Apes tried to do the revival, to really increase the practice of tatau. Yeah. So that's not, and so when you look at any writings or anything, it will never come up before the 80s because it was never said before the 80s because it only started here in New Zealand in, the late, around the late 80s, 90s era. And that saying doesn't make sense because traditionally in Samoa, of course you spoke Samoan because that was the only language, that was the language that they spoke. So you see the different,
right?
Yeah.
The
other, it's interesting because if you were to go to Samoan practice of old, that saying would actually be the reverse. If you want to, tattoo, ka your kuli first before you try and learn the language, because only those that had the tatau were allowed inside the maota. And the maota is where all the hardcore, the real deep Samoan, all the Samoan cultural practices took place. And you could learn, you know what I'm saying, by entering the house, and your entry criteria to enter the house was the tatau. Yeah. So then when I look at that saying, I was like, no, actually of old, that would be reversed because, a lot of the cultural dealings that happened inside, the Maoka Fongo were, you had to have the tatau to go in. So you had to have the tatau to go in, then you can learn all the deep stuff that's happening there. Yeah. So, all these different.
So in the 80s, that was what did they have that saying?
So that saying was drummed up here in New Zealand. That's not a saying from Samoa by those that were too scared to get the tatau when the Sulu Ape family was trying to boost up, the practice. Yeah.
Right. So were they saying don't be scared?
Who?
The Sulu Apes were they trying to say don't be scared?
No, the Sulu Apes were trying to revive it and get to ka more better and more malu, and then that saying came in from those that didn't, who were too scared to get it. Yeah, and that was like a counter. That was like a slowing down of the work that the Sulu Apes were doing. But our generation, the last, what did you say, about 5 years-ish, 10-ish years. Yeah, we've seen a big surge in it, which is cool. And the other thing is, it's like when you get it, and my friends always used to say it to me, but then I'm like, no, I see it more now. It's one of those, you grow into it. So like you have it, and then like you grow into it to be, a better servant, to be better at cultural stuff and just be a better person in general. It's like you grow into it. You don't necessarily go into it with all the answers and knowing everything and anything. Yeah, it's like once you're correctly dressed, appropriately dressed in Samoan attire, then you grow into it more and it like helps you in your journey. Yeah.
I actually met a Palangi guy with one.
Was he a full Palangi?
Yeah. He had one. He was married to a Samoan. He was married to a Samoan.
That's normally the case. I met a Palangi in the Gold Coast. He has a stall and he's full Palangi, married to a Samoan, and he has one too. Yeah.
I asked him, he said it was cool. I was like, oh man, that's not cool.
Yeah. Oh God, that's another debate you're gonna give you in trouble.
How'd you get one? How'd you get one then if it's just cool?
So,
yeah. So man, I've noticed, because you're online, and I noticed you got some great writing, man. Like,
thanks, we try.
Yeah. So it's good that platforms like Coconet TV ask you to write for them and stuff. Has anyone else done that?
Yeah.
Have you written for anyone else?
Yeah, I've written for the Herald. Some of my writings have gone through to the Herald, Yahoo Sports, E Tangata, random different platforms here and there. Yeah.
Because your experience in sports and that, like, do you get into all the sports writing, sports journalism, stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm slowly getting. So I for a portion of my time, I was the sport journalist at at Observer.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I used to write some of the sports stories there for a little time.
Yeah.
And then in terms of sport journalism,
Because what's the experience like? Because I know you have an editor and they sort of control how you write, like in the way where you can't be too controversial, or you can't actually go like have your own kind of. There has to be a certain style, like they edit it like that.
Yeah,
like you can't really.
I think I was lucky though, working for a Samoan newspaper, and that they didn't really edit me that much. So it was all. I think when you work for an organization where the values and the beliefs are the same, then it's kind of like all good. I think if I had written for a mainstream newspaper, they might have censored me and really hardcore edited me. But my time there, they allowed me to be as drastic and extra and it's controversial. It was encouraged.
Yeah. Sweet, man.
Wow.
So what's going to happen in the next few weeks for you? Like, what have we got coming up?
Nothing much, just marking and conferences. And
oh, yeah. You go overseas for conferences and that?
I'm going to one in Adelaide.
Oh, yeah.
Is this still on? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just wrapping up for the end of the year and trying to write as much as I can.
Awesome, man. Awesome. You should flick me some of your articles, new articles that come up.
I will. I just gotta try and finish them, get them over the line first, man. But it's no.
Yeah.
So what area do you work in? Or
I'm in architecture.
You know, I got my PhD in the School of Architecture.
Did you?
And I know nothing about architecture.
Did you take some papers?
None. So, God, because wow. So you're an architect.
I'm not registered.
But so you know like Lama Tone and all of them?
Yeah.
Charmaine and
He came on. He came on the
Albert.
podcast.
Wow. No, so my PhD was actually in the School of Built Environment and Architecture because the university didn't know where to fit me in terms of culture. But I'm glad I went through there. So then because my PhD was on the Samoan practice in Brisbane, but they said because it's in the School of Architecture, I have to have an architectural component. I have no background in it.
So you didn't take a paper from it?
No, not even one paper. And so then the angle that I came from it was how the Samoan and I'm glad I did because it opened my eyes and to see things in a way that I had never seen it. So then I was just talking about and showing the architectural component was how the Samoan community Samoanizes the spaces that they're in. Yeah. So even though the sitting room was only made for like 5 people and the garage is made to park your car, they in essence turned it into another bedroom, where more family members came, and then so they always adapted the environments that they were in, the built environments that they were in, and continue to carry out the cultural processes regardless. I found that so fascinating because I never looked at it, built environment. So then they're like, how does the built environment, because my professors were like, how does the built environment affect your cultural practice? And I was like, no, it's actually, how does the cultural practice affect the built environment? Yeah. So I'm like, they modify, the built environment gets changed around because we want to practice this cultural thing. Yeah. Well, I found it so fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And when you think about it, back in the days, Like you see with Islander houses, like Islanders that live in New Zealand homes.
Yeah.
The garage is always the meeting place, never the car.
Oh,
The car's never in the garage.
We continued that in Australia, and they continued it in America. So
the garage is the place where you can meet, or it's a bedroom. You know, and the boys sleep out there. You know, it's never the house for the car.
Yeah, and that tradition still holds strong in 2023 in Australia.
Yeah. Because I remember when they did a poverty thing here on the news.
Yeah,
and the Palangis were going to South Auckland, and they go, look how they turned the garage into a bedroom, and like there's no insulation. No, I was like, come on, man, we're doing this for years, man.
Yeah, and so again, that's the important. That's
like normal.
Yeah, and so then the whole Palangi lens and the Palangi view of how we live is very different to our own view of how we live. Yeah, so then they, the whole concept of they call it overcrowding. When there's heaps of us that live in one house, but I'm like, who said it was overcrowding? Because we loved it. I loved having my grandparents and my parents and my cousins and all of that live in the same house, and all the different things that I learned along the way, that intergenerational learning. Yeah, but then the Palangi view it as a deficit thing.
Yeah, exactly. And this is one of the reasons why I think racism is always going to be alive and well, because it's that not understanding each other's culture.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, it's funny, like if you go on social media and see all the influencers or the skits or the comedian skits or from Pacific Islanders, they're always laughing at us. But when are we going to laugh at them, at the Palangis, the little differences? Because those differences, like seems normal to us, but to the Palangis is shocking to them.
Yeah.
And it tells me, so wait, hang on. So you mean we've been living with each other for so long?
Yeah.
And you still don't understand where we're coming from?
Because we had to understand where they were coming from.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so...
Because they don't want to know, eh?
Yeah, because there's power in... But then, as you get older in that, there's power in being able to navigate with those spaces, being able to know what they're doing, know what we're doing, and then you strategize, and then you move accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think that's the problem, because the Palangis don't want to know, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, there's some that want to know, and then there's some that don't want to know. Yeah, and there's not enough of them, and then there's some that want to know to use.
Because do you think that the Pacifica space is only for us people? Really? Because we're the only ones keeping up to date with it. Because I thought the whole thing with diversity is to get everybody included with everything, right?
Yeah.
But it's still separated everyone. Like the Palangis are like, okay, we're doing our thing, you guys do your own thing.
Yeah.
It's still separated like that. There's no...
Yeah, I think there's times and places. So there's times and places where we should collaborate and work together and do different things, and then there's times where we need our specific only spaces as well. Yeah, so how that looks like, I don't know, but
we need it to inspire.
Times,
we need our own spaces to inspire each other up, but then there should be a point where it should merge.
Yeah, or you can have both at the same time, I reckon. Yeah. Because,
And I think a good way of doing that is through mainstream media.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think having, like, a show like Tongues of Pacifica helps every single person. It helps us, because we're the only ones watching it, I think. The Palangis are not watching it. They'd rather watch One News.
Yeah.
But if our stories come on One News, then everyone's watching it.
Yeah.
To me, that's better.
Yeah, but having both. So I think both, and that's the best thing, is occupying as many spaces as we can. So then, both. So then Tangata Pacifica is important because it's our stories for and by us on our terms. And then, also occupying the mainstream as well. So then they see, we're still here.
But occupying mainstream as us for real.
Yes, as us for real.
Not occupying a brown face talking like a Palangi.
Yeah, so then it's awesome to have some of our awesome Pacific news and media people in the mainstream spaces. I have to give them my full props, and they're not doing that anymore. So we saw some of that, that our own people, talking in Lefaiali'i back in the day. But then now when you have awesome people like Indira Stewart and a whole bunch of them, being unapologetically Pacific, being unapologetically in mainstream.
That's where we need to be.
In mainstream.
That's where we need to be. Yeah.
So,
because you see it, if you watch ESPN, right, and you see guys like Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, and you see all those African Americans on these talk shows, they are African Americans.
Yeah.
They got their slang.
Yeah.
They do everything but swearing, saying the N-word. Yeah. But they're doing everything else, right? Yeah. And they're African Americans, right? I think that's
that flavor.
To bring that flavor, and the ESPN knows that's what gets the people to watch.
Yeah,
because it's how many African Americans play in American sports, like nearly everybody in NFL, African American, and NBA. So it makes sense. That they got African Americans watching these shows, so it makes sense to put them on the panel and in these spaces, right?
In ways that the rest of the community relates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we need. That's where we need to get to. That I think that should be our goal too, to get on that level.
And I think we're doing good too. Like, I must say, a lot of the Pacifica that I see on the mainstream media, whether they're radio hosts or whether they're on the news, they're really relatable. Like, they'll be talking how I'll be talking, how my cousins be talking, Then they throw in our slangs and that, so it's just nurturing and continuing to encourage and support it, I suppose. But it's a cool time to be here in New Zealand now.
Because if I think about the rugby league in Australia with these sports shows like the Matthew Johns show, that's white, right? They're bantering. They're doing their way. Like, I think closer to us will be more like Sonny Bill Williams on Stan Sports, how he talks. See, he's being himself. And I really appreciate that. Like, some people think, it's cringe what he says, like, he's stumbling. And But nah, he's talking like...
it's real.
It's real.
Yeah, it's real.
And I appreciate that more than him stumbling his words or making mistakes and stuff. That he's being himself. That's better.
I 100% agree.
He's like, hey, also, and he's talking to his mates on the. He's saying, he's saying these words. Yeah, that's relatable, huh?
I totally agree.
And and so if they can do it, why can't New Zealand do it? I want to hear Mills Mulane say "uso" or "us" on the.
You don't be saying "uso"?
You're not saying "us." I want him to be like more, relatable, but I don't know.
Nah,
maybe we're not there yet. Maybe I don't know.
But then again, it's one of those, we push the fight forward, but then we should also, take a look and embrace the victories that we've had thus far. So even the fact that Sonny Bill is in that position, that's a big, victory, that we should celebrate. And, for every one of our commentators holding that space or holding a space of a platform, I celebrate those because, I was a little kid when it was just April Eremia. I was a little kid and the only brown one I saw was April Eremia and Sandra Kailahi. It was a little 10-year-old fair go, and that's so. We've come a long way.
We've come a long way.
No.
Well, we did 3 hours.
Oi, soli. Dang, do you normally do that long?
I think last one's 3 hours. I tried the max 3 hours.
Who did you think for? Who was the last one?
Jack Nielsen. And then before that was Steve. Awina, yeah.
I was living in Samoa as the journalist when she won the Miss Fafa.
Oh yeah.
And then I never forget. She goes, "Gay." I was her reporter, and thingy and all that. And she goes, oh wow, you've got really good English. I was like, moi kio. I'm from New Zealand, born Australia, raised up. Also, you had Steve before. Was it a good one?
She was real good. She was real good. Pretty educational too. Like she talked about the struggles of a whakawhingi.
Yeah.
Living in the Western world.
Yeah.
Because in Samoa it's just normal. Like, no one cares about the LGBT plus and pronouns and all that over there. But you come over here and then it's like, bombarded with all the stuff.
Yeah.
So it's good education about what she goes through over here, and like that's kind of scary. Eh? Like I never thought about it, And she talked about every time you go outside, it's dangerous. You never know. Like even when you're at a bar at night, if you go to a nightclub with your family and the guy comes up to you, it's dangerous. You never know. Yeah. So I never thought about these things, and it was good for her to explain. So it was good. It was educational.
How did you know her, or did you just see?
She knew Lady, who does the podcast with me. Sometimes they went to the same school. The Custom Boys.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. Yeah. I should get her on again. She's good. She's a good talker.
Yeah, I remember. But then I was about to say, if any of my peoples from Australia are here, I can let you know, and you can do, because I've got one of my cousins, I don't know if you've seen it, she's doing her PhD on whakawhingi and non-Samoans with the malu. Yeah. Wow. And she's gotten like heaps of heat. Like she's a and I'll just send you a message if there's anyone like of interest that's specific from Australia that's visiting or whatnot.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'll be keen to have a chat. Yeah.
But then, have you ever gotten like, is there any of your podcasts where it's like they got heaps of hate and like it got like ran?
I think the most when they had Stephen Setsu on.
Which one's that one, Stephen Setsu?
He's that guy that comes on TikTok and he says all this crazy stuff.
And he's like, I think lots of people just didn't like him, or just what he said.
I think it's 50-50. People hate what he says and people like what he says.
Yeah.
But I think from what everyone was saying in the comments, he takes it off like Andrew Tate. He says stuff that Andrew Tate have said and all these other people have said. Yeah.
So that's probably the worst hate that you've gotten.
Well, it's the most comments was one with King PC. He talked about religion.
Because he's had that stance for a very long time.
Yeah, because he's
how's that?
He's atheist. Yeah. So
atheist for a very long time.
He talked about he doesn't believe in God and why, right? Yeah. And I put that up as a snippet on the video.
Nice.
Man, I'm still getting comments now. Yeah. We recorded that 3 years ago.
Wow.
I'm still getting comments. But it's 50-50 comments.
Yeah.
People like hate what he says. People
like,
wow,
Yeah.
You're right. People going, how dare you? Yeah. That's not a Christian way, that. And they're all Polynesians, all islanders saying this. So it's surprising to me that, for a culture that's Christian-based culture, like you get the skeptics.
Yeah.
You get heaps of them, Yeah. So it's like he's like the guy that's put his hand up and said what he believes in. Yeah. But it makes sense what he says. But that's,
Yeah.
He just had a bad experience of church and that, taking money and all that kind of stuff. So
that would have been, because he wasn't just the atheist, he was a very vocal atheist for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then I had even heard of some of the stuff, like I heard he had gotten booed when he said some stuff out in public and stuff like that. I was like, dang, it really be your own people like that. Also, King Kapisi would have, wow.
Yeah, that was his one gets a lot of comments about that, because I guess it's a taboo subject for survivors,
and they're very passionate about it either way. Yeah, I reckon my cousin, if she came in with the one that does whakawhingi and malu and that, I think she might top your comments, because we did her story with Samoan Observer. It spread like wildfire. Then the Radio New Zealand took it, and like the hate she got was like crazy. Yeah, but she didn't care. But like, I was like, wow, people are really passionate about this, because she was she was advocating for a different tatau for whawhawhinge, because they're of two spirits. Yeah. So then you could have seen how that would have.
Yeah.
It's just like, I was like, oh wow, cuz, you know, they be talking about it now. Most of them, about 80% disagree. Yeah, some of them have called for you to be killed.
Is she here?
No, she's in Brisbane.
Oh.
But the next time she's here, I'll definitely.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to talk.
Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet also.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.